from campuses across the country. 30 drivers split across 4 weeks of high-octane racing. Every corner counts, every point matters. All leading to one, crowning the British University Sim Racing Series champion.
Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the second round of the British University Sim Racing Series, brought to you by Motorsport UK. My name is Zach Sweeney. I'm going to be your host for this evening. Alongside me, we've got Nathan Richards and Adam Reed, who will be taking you through the action on track in the commentary box. And well, Nathan, off the back of round number one, a lot to look forward to this week in terms of the tracks that we've got. Now we're a bit more familiar with the drivers, so much more to look forward to on that race to the grand final.
Yes, definitely, and of course, from what we saw last time, we had one driver that was dominant and ran away with it, being Tom Ballantyne, so I'd expect we're going to see a lot from him again heading into the next 3 races, but of course we did see lots of chopping and changing for second and third, so I'd imagine yet again tonight, with the fact we've also got some new names entering the series as well, could certainly be another great night of action, especially around the tracks that we got this evening.
Indeed so, and of course Tom Ballantyne feeling very, very good. We'll get through the standings in a moment, but there you can see just how the format works in of itself. So of course we've got a Drivers' Championship, not too worried about the Teams' Championship, at 1 point for fastest lap, and of course with 25 points for a win. That is the most rewarded position in terms of the difference between the points you get for first and the points you get for the position underneath it. You can see 3 points between first and second, and then 2 points between each position down to fifth, and it's 1 all the way down to P20. We have just got a note, no penalty points from last race, which, Adam, always good news.
Yeah, it's always positive to come away from an event with 0 penalty points. I think that will kind of maybe encourage the driver to be a little bit more aggressive. But yeah, it'll be interesting kind of what that invites and what that kind of curtails. But yeah, really excited to get into the action today. Our calendar kind of for this heat looks really, really interesting with a lot of challenges up ahead.
So let's take a look at the race schedule then that we've got for week number 2. We kick things off in the UK at Oulton Park, just to the northwest of the country, on the border between England and Wales in Chester. Of course, Oulton Park, a fantastic circuit in of itself. Then we'll be heading to Phoenix and to Denmark for the Rudskogen Motor Centre for the third and final race of the evening. Nathan, of course, you're familiar with Oulton Park. Talk us through it. Going to be quite a challenge, I'd imagine, in these MX-5s.
Yes, definitely. I'm very familiar with Oulton Park from last week in the iRacing fixed races. Didn't go too well. I know it was an F4 and this is an MX-5, but still a tricky track. And of course, the 2 points to keep an eye on is both the chicanes at Britain's and his hops. It's a killer. The black bollards, you hit them and your race is pretty much done and dusted. So the drivers will have to be careful when taking through in that section.
They will be indeed, of course. Adam, of course, you're very familiar with Oulton Park, but Phoenix Raceway, Rudskogen Motor Centre, for us in the commentary box and also the drivers on circuit alike. Phoenix might be a little bit of that sort of throw in the mix, that sort of dark horse, if you will, in terms of circuits, because I doubt it's one that the drivers have got too much familiarity with.
No, everyone kind of knows this circuit from kind of hosting the NASCAR Championship 4 on the oval, but this is kind of a circuit that hasn't really been used at all. I think it kind of, demolished really. So we're kind of throwing back the years to when there was a road course at this circuit. So I'll be really intrigued to see how some of how some of the drivers take this. It looks so technical from its track map, and I'm going to very quickly talk about Rudskogen again because it's a really nice kind of venue. It's that kind of Norwegian circuit. There's so many twists, so many turns. There's a couple of overtaking opportunities, but I think for the middle sector, you're just trying to set it up really throughout the entire time. So our drivers will be up against some pretty big challenges, I'd say. The hardest out of all of them, it might even be Phoenix, just because of the lack of time people have had around this circuit and how unknown it is to the iRacing world.
Yeah, exactly that. Of course, Phoenix, like I said, going to be a bit of a dark horse. Jack Mace, of course, our NASCAR merchant in the British University Sim Racing Series, was gutted when he found out it was not going to be the oval variant. But nonetheless, we've got 3 fantastic races, and well, let's see if it's going to be 3 fantastic wins once again for Tom Ballantyne at the top end of the championship. 3 wins, 3 top 5s, put it on pole as well in qualifying, I think, on all 3 occasions. Didn't get the fastest lap at Lime Rock though, which of course is a complete disappointment, and he might as well have written off the entire round. Malachi Greenwich, Mitchell Marie, Jack Mace, Daniel Solon, Fabian McEwen, then comes Barath Safich from Joe Pennell and Alexander Hughes. The fight for second, Nathan, pretty close. Malachi Greenwich, of course, Marie, 4 points between them, 4 points back to Jack Mace, and then 1 point back through the rest of the positions. Again, if you discount Tom Ballantyne, who is still not uncatchable, the championship looks incredibly close.
Yeah, I mean, you've got 2nd to 8th, 12 points apart. That's really, really close. And, of course, one result here and there for some of the drivers further down. I mean, the likes of Barath Safich, if he can move himself up to maybe 2nd in one of the races, that can put him right in that fight for going up to the top. And as well, we can see 4 new drivers taking part in this event. Of course, Lofaro was meant to be here last time, but wasn't. But then, of course, Lagas, Driscoll and Ansell are newbies heading into this one. And a fun fact for Jake Ansell, I know him very well. Drove him out from Wilton Mill a couple of months back. So his driving was quite safe on the motorway. Not sure if it'll be the same on a track.
Yeah, well, you're a steward yourself, so I'm sure you'll be giving us some good old insight into any of his shenanigans out on circuit. For context, by the way, I had my first race back into competitive driving a couple of days ago in the British Sim Racing Cup. I was involved in a bit of an incident. I won't get into too much into it. Nathan gave me a penalty slam dunk, and I disagree with it. And we'll have that discussion over the course of the of the next couple of hours. Let's put it that way. Adam, ahead of the race, we've got a couple of moments till I jump out of the booth. Any final thoughts going into the first qualifying session of the day?
I think I'm just overall excited about the circuits as well. You know, they're in 3 different countries, and of course, Oulton is one I've been to in real life. So I know I've walked the circuit before, so I kind of know relatively what it feels like. So yeah, obviously, we're really excited to see how that kind of turns out. And of course, we are wanted to note missing the Britain chicane as well. So we'll go round the Shell Oils hairpin, which is banked as well. And then we're going to be missing that first chicane. So that is going to allow a lot of momentum down in towards Knickerbrook chicane. So that's going to cause a lot of chaos.
It is indeed. It's going to be a lot of fun. Well, Three's a crowd as always. I'm going to jump out of the booth. It's up to you guys for qualifying. Nathan, over to you.
Indeed. So here we go, ready for qualifying for our first race of the evening. Of course, we should get started very shortly. And of course, Oulton Park, a track that is used quite often by our drivers, especially those that do a lot of your hosted, a lot of your fixed official races in iRacing, whether it's in the Formula 4s, the Mazdas, the Formula Vs, the F4s, GT3s on occasion, Toyota GR86s. You know, this track is used for absolutely everything. It's a bit like a birthing ground for a lot of drivers making their way into our race, and this is one of the tracks that you get given first off the bat. So we'll see how our drivers can get adjusted to this Oulton Park circuit, and it seems at the moment we have 10 drivers on track, and we'll see how they all get off. And at the moment, I'm not just sure if it only shows the top 10, but I don't see Tom Ballantyne on here, so hopefully he does get in, unless it's just not popped him on the timing screen just yet.
No, it hasn't. So we're still waiting potentially for a couple of drivers, but 10 is better than none. But here we go through the Shell Oils hairpin, and this is what I was talking about with the British chicane. You know, there's going to be nothing to kind of turn into. It's very usual to use it, but we're going straight on. We now see that number 67 of Malachi Greenwich. We're going to go straight on to the Knickerbrook. Look at the momentum he's carrying all the way through. That's kind of our first signs of what we're seeing. He'll head his way through. You're just seeing that blue car work its way through, and then through this quite high momentum, using all the curb there on the inside. And he'll travel up the hill, Nathan.
Yes, indeed. So just here with Malachi Greenwich, who in the first race last time out, he got P2 on the grid, had a really poor start, and then of course dropped all the way down the field and finished near the back. Whereas today, he's got that chance to go on the front row again, maybe, and work his way back up the field. Of course, he did get a podium in the end last time out, but it was a couple of races later. So we'll see what Malachi can do this evening. Of course, with 8 minutes to go in quali, they all have 3 laps, and that's what they can do. So if they get their 3 laps done nice and early, it gives them a little bit more time just to sit in the pits and wait to get going. But also it means if you make a mistake and have to go back to the pit lane, you've got time to just go back out and try once more. So we'll see what Grinch can do on this lap, along with everybody else who's on circuit at the moment. And I do see Ben Mills as well. Not sure if he's racing, because I'm sure he's one of the guys helping out with organising. But if Ben Mills is racing, hello to Ben Mills.
No, he's just left.
Oh, there we go.
The 11th car just disappearing. It's the minute we mentioned him, he must have got a bit of stage fright, Nathan.
Could have done, certainly. But yes, we'll wait and see. And hopefully we do get Tom in as well, who at least doesn't seem to be popping up. But looking at some of the new drivers we have, Jake Ansell, as I mentioned earlier. We've got Raul Lagas, and I think there's another one in there as well somewhere. A couple of new faces taking part here this evening. As here is Daniel Solon, very competitive from last time out, heading down in towards Hislop Chicane. Of course, those Black Ballards, absolutely killers as they all make their way through here. And then, of course, through the right-hander and back up the hill to get into the third part of the lap. And then we'll hopefully soon start to see a couple of lap times come through.
Yeah, indeed. So we now just follow Daniel in the number 78. He heads his way through Jura's corner, through the right hand. It's such a high momentum corner. You're down a gear, and then you're trying to pick the throttle back up as early as you possibly can. And then as you're on this like really bumpy stretch of road, a lot of lifts and downs you go, and in towards this final right-handed, trying to carry as much speed as you possibly can, because you can do that in these Mazdas. And you head over Deer Lee and on towards the line. You're keeping yourself right to that left-hand side. Now we hit seems to be Daniel Solon 147.867. 68, my apologies. Jake Ansell goes second, so I think we're right now into the heart of qualifying.
Indeed, and of course, all these events here lead up towards the Grand Finals, which will be on the 16th of April. Of course, we'll be there live from the Confetti X at Nottingham Trent University, and we do have a reset in points. So even if Tom Ballantyne manages to win, every race, and we get to the end, it means he's got to go all over again for the Grand Final. So that's going to put a lot of pressure on him. And also, some of those that might have a poor start to the season here have that chance to go higher up in towards the Grand Finals. Of course, looking in the rest of the events, we do have, of course, after tonight, 3 more sets of heats with Oulton Park circuit, the other layout with Hislops and Fosters, and then also we go to Oulton Park, and then we end it off at Navarra. Navarra, I absolutely hate, so I feel sorry for every driver out on track there. I just can't get adjusted to that track whatsoever.
No, that's really unfortunate, because I've covered it in a Porsche Cup series. It was Masters. It seemed to have really good racing. So I think Nathan's just kind of showing off what we love to call on here a skill issue. Anyway, the next couple of cars are about to head over the line, but yeah, it looks like Solon and Ansell are very eager to get out the racetrack. So they've gone pretty early in this case, but we'll see the 128 come over the timing beam. Looks like they haven't got a lap time in just yet. The Subaru Mazda. Look at this. Proper livery on this one, Nathan. Of course, very much used in the Rally Championship, I believe, back in the 90s. So awesome to have the Repsol 555 livery out on display.
Indeed. Lovely, lovely Repsol livery, as we do see a couple more cars coming through. Jack Mace, 9/10 off at the moment with a 149.276, so he's getting his first lap on the board. And surprisingly, many drivers are making mistakes and going wide, just like that car there, as there are some lap times that drivers still haven't been able to complete any yet, as that's going to be Alex Hughes going up to P4. He's on a 150.160. So at the moment, Daniel Solon out front, very comfortable out there with a good 5.5-6 gap to Malachi Greenwich, as Mitchell Marique goes up to third in car number 16. Of course, the driver we saw a lot of last time out, of course, the notable one being the big mistake that he made at Charlotte's, and that what caused the big pilot with himself, and I believe it was Jack Mace at the time.
Yeah, that was a costly error. I think that Charlotte Roval round was very much a kind of a turning point for that round, or for this championship, I should say. So a lot of the drivers may be trying to really kick back from that and put it to the back of their mind and, work on this next heat. It's, it's a brand new week. It's, a brand new set of tracks, brand new set of races as well. And I think it's just kind of the best time to reset now. So we're just going to have a look and see what these drivers get out of here. I haven't seen Tom Ballantyne, and Tom Ballantyne did get 3 pole positions out of 3 wins out of 3, lead the championship on 77 points. So unless I'm very much mistaken, he is not joined up here, which is an absolute gateway for anyone to grab a pole position. At the moment, Daniel Solon has taken that by the horns, and he's running away with it.
Definitely is. Jake Ansell jumps up to P5, has caught up to the rear of Jack Mace, who goes up to 3rd place. So now Mitchell Marie is the car ahead of Jake Ansell, as most cars now are finishing their final laps. Here is Raul Lagas, who is currently 1.7 seconds off, from Alex Hughes. So we'll see what he can manage to do on his final run out there. He's on lap 3 out of 3, so this will be his final endeavour out on track. As this is car 36 as well, making their way up to the line, and Barath Sathish up to P2 ahead of Malachi Greenidge. A great lap there from Barath to open up his qualifying session. As we do see as well, Ben Driscoll go up to P6 in car 36, just 2 tenths back from Mitchell Marie. So the gaps are starting to close up in some positions. Of course, P2 to P3, only a few hundredths of a second, and then only a few tenths between P5 and P7, as here is Raul Lagas, and we'll see what he can muster up here on this final run and try and get a little bit higher than 9th place.
Yes, he's just gone through the Knickerbrook chicane, and he's now heading on towards Druid's Corner. You see the gaps are pretty close there. I think Malachi Greenidge could maybe steal the position if he hasn't finished his lap times yet, because he's less than a tenth there to the back of Barath Sathish. But now we'll keep an eye here on Raul Lagas in his first qualifying session out here in the northern circuit at Oulton Park, taking a dip through Losh Corner, taking a grass there, putting it onto the racing surface. Raul Lagas will come over the line. Will he improve? It doesn't look like it though. Ben Driscoll though will make his way through the Knickerbrook chicane in his red and white stripe Mazda MX-5 through the Knickerbrook chicane on towards Clay Hill as he heads his way underneath the Oulton Park sign, and then head on towards Druid's Corner. He's just 2 tenths of a second off Mitchell Marie, so he's got quite the gap to try and chase if he wants Daniel Solon. I think at the moment he's just sitting about a second and a half shy of the number 87, so he'll head in towards Lodge Corner for potentially the final time, and in fact will get stopped there. But Daniel Solon will take his first pole position of the championship.
Indeed, he certainly will. Ben Driscoll's car does cross the line, but didn't find any time now. It was a 1:50.299 for him, so no improvement for Ben Driscoll. As we did see as well, Fabian McKeon come up onto the timing board in P8, so he did find a time in there enough to put him P8, but Daniel Solon right up at the top. Of course, no Tom Ballantyne it seems, and of course that helps any of those in the standings trying to make their way forward. Of course, he's on 77 points. It's nearly 20 points back to second already, so a big chance for some of those further down to get some big lap times in and to score some big points. And of course, Barath Sathish, one of those. He was the example I used early on in terms of a driver trying to make their way forward and go for second place, and he's done exactly that in qualifying, so we'll see what Barath Sathish can do. But of course, heading into racing shortly, Adam, this is going to be a very tricky circuit. It's easy to go side by side in a lot of corners, but of course some of your heavy braking zones such as your chicanes and your hairpin, it's a bit of a risk to go for a move there. But if it's coming to the last couple of laps, sometimes you've got to take that risk.
Yeah, I think this may be a bit of a slow burner in terms of this race. So I'll be interested to see how this all kind of pans out. If we have a look through the grid, Daniel Solon will be on pole position alongside Barath Sathish, both their best qualifying positions of this series. Malachi Greenidge, the absolute gem from Heat 2, did pretty well. We'll look through the rest of the grid on that part. Jake Ansell in 7th, followed by Fabian McKeon, the only Irishman in the field, with Alexander Hughes, Raul Lagas and Tom Ballantyne. But of course he wasn't there, so it'll only be the 10 cars taking place. The cars are now set. They will just keep their heads focused, and Nathan, we're on for a good cracking race here.
Indeed we are. Won't be too long until we get underway here for around 11 laps of racing around this circuit. It's a 20-minute race for these drivers. and it won't be too long until we get underway. And we'll see who can come away with that victory. Of course, at the moment, it's looking very good for Daniel Solomon. Very quick in qualifying, and I think what we saw as well last time out, very quick in the race, just nobody was quick enough compared to Tom Ballantyne. So we'll see what we can expect from Daniel Solomon here at the moment, as everybody's lining their way up on the grid. All 5 rows are ready, and it won't be too long before we get green, green, green here for the first race of the evening for heat number 4. The cars are revving up as we wait for the lights. It's green, green, green. Everybody gets away nicely up at the front. A really good start from Malachi Greenwich, who looks to try and get on the back of Balsanthi straight away. But Daniel Solomon doing what he needed to do right at the start to pull away that gap as a move further back, as well as, I think it was Jake Ansell having an argument with Alex Hughes down near the rear of the field, as here's Mitchell Murray. A couple of tenths back from Jack Mace as they make their way through in towards the opening sector. And the gaps are going to be quite close here, but of course, Adam, with Slipstream, a big opportunity to make some moves as a couple of cars go wide.
Yeah, indeed. You don't want to be going wide because Cascades is a very, very difficult corner. Now you're heading in towards this tricky section, on towards Shell Oil Corner for the first time. And they're just starting to concertina up here. And I think that's Driscoll trying to go for a move there. He's the highest placed driver out of the brand new drive that are taking place. In fact, here, Jack Mace is now going to try and challenge. But you're already seeing Baron Sathis try an outside look here on Daniel Solomon. Solomon already here at lap 1 saying, I have to go defensive here. And will Sathis be able to take the lead? He's going to try and fight it around the outside. Greenwich is going to try and just take this opportunity lightly. If they collide, we'll take the opportunity. But Sathis thinks better. Someone's off on the grass here. That might be Mitchell in this round. That's going to be Greenwich. And unfortunately for him, he's going to drop a couple of places. Not the first time I've seen that before. But he'll drop right to the back of the field. And Jack Mace will think, well, I shouldn't have made that move. He'll probably regret the tail.
Yeah, indeed, and Jack Mesa a move up the inside on Malachi Greenwich, and a similar story to what happened to Malachi in the first race. Within the first couple of laps, he was near the back. Of course, this was a different situation. He's into the barriers of 2 cars, and that's Malachi Greenwich, and also, I think, Fabian McKeon, 2 of them into the barriers. Harsh, as they make their way to the corner. And of course, that's not what those 2 want, and their cars will definitely be being towed back to the pit lane, I'd imagine, as they are both heading back to the pits. But a very disastrous start for the both of them as they carry on. I don't think McKean got caught out. I think it might have been Raul Lagas that got caught, but we'll see once our timing screen all makes sense for us here, as Jake Ansell being overtaken by Jack Mace up the inside as they head in towards Cascades at turn 3. And of course, a big opportunity for drivers to make moves, not just because of the straight. It's very easy to go wide on the exit of Cascades, and of course gives all the drivers behind a lot of overspeed, so always a keen eye to find an opportunity there, as somebody's brought up the gravel, and I think has gone straight on it, looks like.
It does look like that, and that seems to be a pretty bold move there from, I think that's Ben Driscoll, potentially. No, I don't think it's Ben Driscoll, because he's now starting to go backwards. It must have been Jack Mace here, so looks like Ansell and Macy battling over kind of the best of the rest, but now Mitchell Marie we're looking at in the all-white car. He's managed to clamber onto the back here of Bareth Sathish, the 555 kind of Subaru liveried Mazda. He's pretty defensive at the moment here, Sathish, but he's, you know, bleeding time to Daniel Solomon, and I wonder if he's going to say to Mitchell, let's work together here, because there is a bigger picture of we can, you know, one of us can win this race, we want to work together. But at this moment in time, I think Mitchell Murray is just saying, nope, I'm going to try and get past you for a second. A lot of battles happening out here are in this very, very tricky circuit.
Yeah, indeed, and here is Ben Driscoll, of course, has got Jake Ansell just behind. We'll see if Jake can try and fight back as they head their way through into Lodge Corner, and very deep for Driscoll, and that allows Jake Ansell to go through. And as always on the exit, you go wide at Lodge Corner, you always end up spinning around. So off goes Ben Driscoll, will drop down to P8, and that allows Fabian McKeon to go through. So that pretty much confirms it was Raul Lagas that got into contact with Malachi Greenwich earlier on, as they are both over a minute back from the leader, which is a big shame for those 2, because it basically means P9 and 10 is guaranteed in this race. As of course, looking up at the front, here is Daniel Solomon, our race leader in car number 78, has got a 1.5 second gap over Barra Sathish. And what has happened to Mitchell Marie, because he's dropped 2.5 seconds back from Barra Sathish, and big chance now for Barra to try and make his way up in the standings. He's quite near the bottom at the moment. Big opportunity with a potential second place on the cards, as we do see as well Fabian McKeon not that far away from Alex Hughes.
Indeed, and Solon had a very difficult last 2 rounds at Charlotte Roval and VIR, a 7th and a 9th for him. So if he can go on and win this race, he'll put himself right back into the hunt. In fact, he could come out of this 2nd place, which will be a mega result as he now heads his way on towards Drury's Corner. I think he's just kind of keeping Sathish at arm's length. You know, Sathish just isn't really making indents into his lead. But Solon isn't kind of running up the road here. Mitchell Marie is also dropped right back. I think that's maybe about 2.5 seconds behind Sathish. So he's really trying to try and gain back the time that he lost. But you're now heading with Sathish, and this is the driver we're kind of focusing on here. He had a really good couple of rounds last time out, grabbing an 8th and a 4th at VIR. So he'll be trying to carry on with the momentum of VIR, but he digs his way through the grass there on that left-hand side and just kicks a little bit of dirt. You don't want to be getting too many of those, because then you'll end up with a couple of with a track limit penalty. You get, I think, 17 X's before then you have to receive a drive-through or stop-go penalty, one of the two.
Indeed, yes. The last thing you need is getting the 17X, because it's pretty much a race ender, that is. So not good for the drivers to get that, and I'd imagine that in 20 minutes they're not going to accumulate 17X or 17 incident points. Series Jake Ansell once again on the back of Jack Mace, battle for P4. Of course, Jake Ansell got the move done ahead of Ben Driscoll, as Ben Driscoll made a mistake at Lodge, and back into the top 5 for Ansell, who of course making his debut here in heat number 4, or I suppose you could say event 2, round 2 of this championship. But another reminder that the points get reset before the grand final, so it doesn't really matter how good or bad Jake Ansell actually does here. At this point, same goes for anybody else. Looking to try and find some points. It's more of going to be an indicator of where you are on pace once you get to the end of the championship, heading into the finals in just under a month's time, which will be great for us too, Adam, as we're going to hopefully be heading down there to commentate live at Nottingham Trent Uni. Of course, they've got their bespoke esports studio facility place, which I've seen lots of pictures, lots of videos. Great place for some action of racing.
I think you'll be happy to know that I've been there multiple times, so I know exactly what it looks like and the spacing we'll get. Trust me, you'll have an amazing time. And somebody else is having an amazing time here. It's Jake Ansell, because he's right up the rear end here of Jack Macy. So Jake on Jack here, that's not going to be confusing whatsoever. The 83 will head into the first corner of Old Hall, and he'll try and get the best exit he possibly can for Cascade, but goes a little bit too wide. Potentially will give himself another X on the track limit warnings. But down in towards the left-hander here, we're about to approach halfway through the race. He's doing pretty well here, and he's managed to get a little bit of pace here on the number 07. I just wonder if Mace is going to be really feeling the pressure at the moment. Fastest lap going to Daniel Solon on 1:47.732. So he's going to be pretty much legging it up front here. So that new fast lap coming up last time around was very positive for him. So we'll just get now with the race leading. You'll kind of see with the helicopter camera, that lead is pretty extraordinary as he goes past the Knickerbrook chicane, commentary box, the green little box on the left-hand side. I've been in there. I've seen better, and that's Ansell trying to defend from Mason. In fact, no, he's made a move. Has Ansell, but they're still side by side. Up toward the hill they go.
Indeed, yep. Jack Mace back on the outside after Jake Ansell made the move up the inside in towards a chicane, but Ansell is still there as they head their way in towards Druid's Corner shortly. But I think, Ansell a little bit too far behind as they head their way through there. So it'll have to be a move down to Lodge here for Ansell, unless he goes again on the next lap. He's all on the back of the Mazda ahead of him as he goes up the inside of car number 7, Jack Mace. Mace breaks later, and no move for Jake Ansell as they head their way back out to the final corner and back up to begin another lap. 5 here out of what will probably be around 11 laps in this race, just heading up to the halfway point of this one, as now we're on to lap 6, and Jake Ansell still chasing down the back of Jack Mason. Looking at lap times last time around, quickest again, unsurprisingly, was Daniel Solon, but not far behind was Barra Sathish. That lap only a couple of thousandths slower. So Sathish here has got a lot of pace around Oulton Park. The question is, can he match it around the other circuits? As again, Jack Ansell going wide.
Yeah, that's not. You don't want to be doing that too many times there, Jake, because that's going to really cost you in the long run. His gap to Jack Mace is getting larger by the second here, and he's just now kind of regaining. Yeah, that move back at launch corner was something that I think he needed to do. You know, he's a brand new driver to the series. You know, he hasn't raced with Jack Mace before, so he doesn't know really what he's capable of. And I think that kind of back off at launch, which to just make sure that he wasn't getting his nose or front bumper chopped off. That would have been really damaging to his efforts, I should say. But I do want to talk about that move that made a lap ago in towards this chicane, because that's what happened when you remove the British chicane. That's exactly what it's made for, to get that momentum and engage kind of that confidence for the drivers to make a move down in towards that chicane, and it's doing exactly its job at the moment. So we now look here between the battle between McEwen and Hughes here. Alex Hughes has been a bit of a struggler in the last heat, but he looks to have been gaining his confidence back every single time he drives a lap in his race car, and he's now on the back here of the only Irishman in the field.
Yeah, definitely. I think last time it didn't go too well for Alex Hughes. He was always near at the back of the field, but today doing a lot better. Currently up in P7 and trying to catch up to the rear. Fabian McKean, who I think should start to pull away, because he did get that move done a couple of laps ago. As here is Daniel Solon, our race leader, 3.8 seconds now ahead of Barra Sathish, who still doing a great job to be in second place considering what we saw last time out. As here's Jack Mace, still got Jake Ansell behind, but the mistake that Ansell made here at Cascades a couple of laps ago certainly has hurt him, because he's 1.3 seconds back at the moment. So definitely not looking to shape up a move just yet, but we're still about 8 minutes to go. Still a big opportunity for Ansell to try and pick off Jack Mace and move up into 4th place. As looking at his last lap, you can see there, lost quite a few tenths to the car ahead, and was actually one of the slowest on track in all of those in the top 7. So as they make their way back up the hill and down towards Knickerbrooks again, we'll see who's looking to make moves. But this time around, it seems like everybody is starting to stretch those gaps out a little bit more.
Yeah, I think a lot of the drivers are now starting to really kind of stretch their legs and, you know, start running now. They've gone through the walking phase, they've gone through they're now into the running phase, and I'm sure they'll be into the sprinting phase. But yeah, we've now got 7.5 minutes left of this race here at Oulton Park. And I think Jake Ansell at the moment is just trying to get onto the back here of Jack Mace, but I think he's having a bit of a struggle. He got a little bit, you know, it had a little bit of a scary moment made by himself. He's just trying to claw that back, but it's just down to the consistency. You know, Jack Mace has, you know, been in this series before. You know, he's probably had some time behind the wheel of Mazda MX-5 since last week, so he's been able to maybe grasp a little bit of time to get used to the circuit now. But of course, Mace had a pretty good kind of run here last week as well. You know, really promising stuff. Again, the closest battle on the track is in fact this little fight here between Mace and Ansell, but again, Ansell just seems to be falling away a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. Wanted to mention that Fabian McKean has dropped back 6 seconds behind Alex Hughes, so has somewhere lost 8 seconds. I'd imagine he's spun or made a grave mistake, but that puts Alex Hughes up into P6 and drops McKean down to P7, as here is Barra Sathish, P2 at the moment, still comfortably ahead of Mitchell Murray, who has definitely not been on the pace of Barra, and even though Barra's not exactly been on the pace of Daniel Solon on his peak laps, he's only a tenth back, and he's only a couple of tenths back each lap, so it's one of those where if Solon makes a mistake, there's still a chance for Barra to capitalise, whereas Mitchell Murray, being 9 seconds back, if, you know, Solon has a spin, chances are he'll get going before Mitchell Murray catches up. So still opportunity for Sathish, but then below you're kind of looking at hoping for a podium at best, as I've noticed the gap between Mason Ansell has yet again grown more, 2.1 seconds. So I'd imagine maybe some pressure has gotten onto the rear of Jake Ansell. Of course, had the move, and now it's out of sight from him completely.
Indeed it is. The gaps are growing here at Oulton Park, and I think it's just kind of down to, confidence with the Mazda, confidence around the circuit, and kind of maybe skill levels. Because I feel like we have, differing skill levels between some of these drivers as well. You're really kind of seeing it out on the circuit. Some are, more confident than others. Some are, really struggling to get to grips. Some maybe not quite sure what this Mazda is capable of. But, Max Chap here. But Daniel Sonnen is really, on top here of this pack here. Again, he goes a little bit faster by about, I think that's 500ths of a second over Bareth Sathish, and that is going to be really, really key in his confidence. I think he's just trying to cycle it around as he heads through the banked corner of Shell Oils. It's such a great corner that we have here in the UK. I think one that kind of goes very underrated. You talk about some of the best corners in the UK, that surely has to be up in the top 10.
Yes, definitely. I think, for me, Oulton Park, despite it being a difficult track, it's got a lot of memorable corners, and that is safe to say, for lots of different reasons, whether it's chaos or just just it being a nice corner. Us as commentators, your drivers, everybody just has the corners everybody just knows is a great corner for racing. So, yes, Oulton Park, a very historic circuit here in the UK. As we look through at everybody in the field, the gaps are still growing and growing and growing. So, I don't think there's any battles on the cards as Ran Lagas puts in his quickest lap time in 1:50.071. So he's started to find some pace, as here is Bareth Sathish, currently in P2, on board with him down towards the final corner at Largen. We'll see if he can do anything to try and close in and maybe go for the win. But with 3 minutes to go, it just would need a big mistake from Daniel Solan, who just looks like he's under no pressure. A little bit like what we saw from Tom Ballantyne. They have a good start, pull out the gap, and then just seem comfortable, and nothing really bothers them. So you'd imagine here now Solan just gets himself to the end, and maybe, Adam, if there's a couple of corners that he might feel a little bit, unstable at or not too confident with, he's got that opportunity just to lift off a bit and take a little bit less speed through.
Yeah, he does. I think the only round where we saw Tom Ballantyne have his struggles was Lime Rock, where I believe he went off onto the grass and had a bit of a moment. So, but looking back at that, I think that was kind of him kind of learning the ropes. But we're kind of seeing a very, very similar story at this moment in time. But Daniel Solan, I think, will be hoping to continue this momentum, and I think this will kind of grow this into the grand final, because I was kind of having a talk with myself here, before we came on the show. And I was saying it was kind of like a NASCAR playoff style, you go through the initial regular season, and then you go kind of the championship kind of building phase and figure out who your champion is. So it's very much a format similar to that, but regular season, playoffs, they're two very similar kind of headspaces a driver has to be in.
Certainly, as we have, I'd imagine, 2 more laps left in this, might be 3. We'll see when Solan crosses the line. Of course, the lap times are 1:47, so it'll be very close between it being the final lap and one more. As here is Bareth Sathish, 7.5 seconds ahead of Mitchell Murray. Now that gap has just out of nowhere shot up as they head into the final corner. And as we see Daniel Solan cross the line, it's going to be very close whether it's the final lap or one more. I think they'll just about be one more lap, Adam.
Yeah, I think we actually might get 2 out of that one. That was 1 minute and 50 seconds remaining. So if he could do, less than, if he dips into the 150s next time around, then I think there could be a little bit of trouble. But he does have the opportunity just to back down a little bit. Look at that gap. It was just about 5 seconds. So let's keep an eye out on that gap between Daniel Solan and Bareth Sathish, because if that starts coming down by a couple of tenths and more, and that kind of shows us that he is backing off, as Mitchell Murray looks to be the driver who'll be taking the last podium spot, as long as he doesn't make a mistake here, which it's very easy to do so around Oulton Park. I'm not going to try and say that it isn't. yeah, Jack Mace will be the one to pick up the piece on this one, but I think a lot of the drivers will be taking their time on this one, apart from if your name's Barrett Satish, because he's now taking a couple of tenths here. I believe that is about maybe 4/10 of a second out of Daniel Solon this lap, so he's not quite backing off. And also we have Raul Largas about to become apparent in the path of Daniel Solon, so that could be another interruption into our leaders race.
Indeed. Not sure if this is a white flag or not, but we'll keep an eye on Daniel Solon, because it was so close once Solon crossed the line to begin that last lap. As we have our way down towards the final couple of corners, 4.4 seconds between the two leaders, and then there's a lapped car ahead of Daniel Solon, that I believe being Raul Largas, as now Solon makes his way through the final corner. Whether it will be the final lap or not, he'll make his way up towards the line, and it will be the checkered flag, and it's Daniel Solon that takes the win in the opening grade. No, it's not, it's a white flag. One to go. Just about across the line with like 1 second left. So we go again, Adam. One more chance.
Yeah, I'll don't worry, I'll let you redeem yourself. But yeah, Daniel Solon is at an absolute blunder of a race. Yeah, sorry Nathan, that will not be your show reel at the end of the 2026 season. I'll be surprised if that makes it. But Solon, yeah, 148.6 last time around. Barrett Satish was 1/10 faster, but it's not going to put any form of dent in the drive of Daniel Solon. He's also, I think, still got Raul Largas in front of him, so he's going to hope that Largas doesn't do anything too silly to kind of ruin his run here. But there's been some pretty impressive drivers here. I think Jack Mace has been pretty good so far there in P4. We kind of have to give credit there to Jake Hansel as well in the number 82, because he's been so quick throughout this one. He's kind of taken over from where Ben Driscoll had his I wouldn't say failures, but he made his mistakes early doors, and that's kind of put him in the position that he currently is now. But Solon comes up the hill. Hopefully he's not going to be interrupted there by Raul Largas. I was very worried the red car was going to have something else. But Nathan, take us away. Last lap here for Solon, and in dominant fashion.
Indeed, and this time it will be the checkered flag for Daniel Solon. So no miscalled, it will be the checkered flag, of course. Leads by over 4 seconds. Dominant performance. Pole to win. I mean, that's what we saw pretty much from Tom Ballantyne every race last time out. So through the final corner for the final time, as Barney's waving the checkered flag, it's Daniel Solon that takes the win in the opening race of the evening. And Barrett Satish, his best position overall, P2. He crosses the line, and Mitchell Murray will round off the podium here in third place. Despite being 8.7 seconds off Baraf, it's still going to be a P3 for him, P4 for Jack Mace, and then not far behind that, Jake Ansell will cross the line in P5 on his debut here in the British University Sim Racing Series.
Yeah, really good stuff there. And there is Fabian McKeown, who comes across the line in P7. Malachi Greenwich, a very quiet race there from the number 67. I kind of wonder how much that will affect him, because he did not have the best of time in this race either. So he will kind of drop in points as well. And I think Daniel Solon will get past him because there's a big 25 points there for Solon, and Malachi Greenwich, I'm sure, will be not happy with the performance after 2 podiums in the last 2 races. That's going to be a real kick in the backside for him. Driscoll will come home in P9, and Raul Largas will come home in P10. Someone have blown their engine. I've just heard in my ear. That's you don't want to be doing that at all.
No, I did by accident before in a race. A friend of mine said, go down the straight and shift down. Listen to him, and my engine broke. So yes, I learned that the hard way around 3 years ago when I first started iRacing. I've not got much quicker, but I've come a lot more with more with intelligence. I'll put it that way. As we welcome Zach back. Hello, Zach. Welcome, Matt. What did you make of that one?
It looked decent, to be honest. Oulton Park, I think, was always going to be a bit of a challenge. Big congratulations, of course, to Dan Solon. A pretty decent race all in all. Of course, one of the highest I-rated drivers that we have on the grid of 5.2k I-rating, so he's pretty decent. Of course, very, very experienced in the world of sim racing. Of course, head of his uni's Formula Student sim racing team. Of course, at the Queen Mary of London University, studies mechanical engineering. So again, very used to the sort of dynamics and concepts that would probably be required to do very, very well in this championship. Of course, the race got underway pretty quickly. Daniel Solon very quickly having to defend from Sathish. Really impressive, actually, from the 555 liveried MX-5 there, Adam. A bit of contact in the opening lap, but you have to say 51, much better turnover from what we saw last week.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of drivers that we can kind of highlight here. We're just having a look through some of the replays as well. You know, we're having a look at the big accident here between Greenwich and I think that was Largas, I believe. But yeah, that was a really, really unfortunate moment in the race, and that really hindered Malachi Greenwich. He was never really the same after that. And he was very fortunate kind of to finish that race, and I think he just needed to finish it just due to the points. But as you were saying with Barrett Satich, a really good run from him in P2. That number 51 car was so solid throughout. Yes, he did try a little bit, but that moment there, going off Shell Oil Corner, was not the most ideal situation for him. But I'm sure he'll kind of refresh himself ahead of the next race.
I'm sure indeed. Of course, Ben Driscoll had a couple of issues throughout, and well, through the final corner at Lodge, the undulation, the car crests over, lifts the tyres up, and well, as you're trying to get back on traction, your rear wheels sort of lifting up and losing traction, probably one of the last things that you would want. We saw some brilliant action though between the 07 of Jack Mace on the left and of course the 83 of Jay Cancel on the right. These two well, couldn't really get too much of each other over the course of the race. Jack Mace, of course, grateful that he's still got his front right suspension after losing it at Lime Rock last week, and as you can see, typical oval driver, professional left turner it says on the side of his car. Good news, he is able to turn right as well. All in all though, Nathan, a sensational drive from Dan Solon, 4.7 seconds clear of the field, and well, just a pretty traditional pole to flag victory.
Yeah, definitely. And, you know, with Tom Ballantyne not being here, he takes his place pretty much in that sense of just being the dominant driver. But I think another driver to mention is Barry Sathish, up to P2. Of course, there's nowhere in the terms of podiums or top fives really in the first three heats. Comes here to Oulton Park and he's really, really quick. So great to see him making his way up the standings. And I'd imagine as well, when we come back later on to head into Heat 2, we'll see what the standings look like. And I'd imagine that Barry Sathish will be a lot higher than what he was heading into this. But of course, 2 races to go, Phoenix Raceway and then Rudskogen Motor Centre. I'd say the 2 harder races of the 3. It's going to be an interesting one.
It is indeed. I mean, Oulton Park, I would probably back it as one of the more difficult circuits on the calendar. Very unforgiving. Phoenix, I would imagine, going to have a little bit more wiggle room for mistakes. Rudskogen, again, quite an open circuit that is not overly forgiving, but I would probably say more forgiving than what we saw at Oulton Park. Also, before the break, I do just want to give a shout out to Mitch Marie, by the way, up there in 3rd position. Doesn't really do much practice coming into sim racing events, but has absolutely smashed it. And also, even more importantly, is the only driver to be using a stick shift and heel and toe in the MX-5s. Obviously, most people traditionally just using the flappy paddles. Yeah. Mitch Marie said, no, I'm going full in for the immersion, using a H-pattern shifter, using a heel and toe. After the break, we'll talk as to why that's relevant, why that's important, and why it might actually be slightly slower. We're going to step away for just a moment. We'll be back in about 10 or 15 minutes, so time. We'll see you after the break. Welcome back after the break then, ladies and gentlemen, as we gear ourselves up for the second heat of 3 for round number 2 of the British University Sim Racing Series. My name is Zach Sweeney, your host, alongside me Nathan Richards and Adam Reed. Now, 10-finger Nathan, how are we feeling coming into race number 2?
Very excited, Zach. Yes, going to be a great one heading to Phoenix for this one, of course. Like we said, it's one of our legacy tracks, one that you don't often see in our racing, at least not anymore. So a lot of these drivers probably aren't going to be too fine-tuned into this circuit, so it will be a great one to see what they can manage to do. And I think, yet again, with it being a newer circuit, those who qualify up the front are going to be in a very big advantage heading into this. But look at the gap at the top of the standings.
Yeah, of course, in the absence of Tom Ballantyne, the gap comes down to 2 points between himself and Daniel Solin. The first victory for Daniel Solin, and Mitchell Marie, like I said before the break, off the back of the maiden podium as well in round number 2, and the only driver to be doing the most immersive form of driving you can in terms of going with the stick shift. Malachi Greenwich, though, not the race for the UEA student that he would have been looking for. Contact with Jack Mace, who lines up in P5 in the championship. Brad Savage, though, catapulting themselves up in the championship, tied with Jack Mace on 68 points. Fabian McEwen, Alexander Hughes, Joel Pennell and Jake Ansell round out the top 10, with Ben Driscoll and Raul Lagos the top 12. Of course, some new arrivals to the grid, and nice to see that they're mixing it up quite well. Now, Adam, off the back of race number 1, if you're Daniel Solin, you're probably filled with a bit of confidence. Do we think we're going to see a Tom Ballantyne repeat, or are we going to see someone else? Mitchell Marie, Malachi Greenwich, Jack Mace potentially getting themselves into the mix and taking the second blood of the evening?
I don't see no reason why Daniel Solin, can't have another runaway victory here in the upcoming race. He's shown his confidence, he's shown his class, and I think he may just be another step above the rest. But it's kind of down to whoever has the best technicality around the next circuit, because we're going to Phoenix, we're going to the road course, and this is going to be a whole different challenge. As you said, Zach, it's going to be the dark horse of this heat, and I can really kind of agree with you. There's so much to this circuit, which I'm sure we'll get into, but there you can see we've done Oulton Park, we're about to do Phoenix, and then we head on to Rudskogen. But that Phoenix Raceway, if you are like Jack Mace, an oval fan, you're going to see Phoenix and think, what on earth am I looking at? Well, the dog leg up the north of the circuit, but yeah, we're not going left the entire time.
Yeah, of course, which is something that Jack Mace is probably seething about secretly. Of course, he's not in the best of moods after contact with Malachi Greenwich in race number 1. Probably not overly happy that he has to turn right at Phoenix, which is something that he's probably not overly used to. What we often see, Nathan, with oval infield circuits, the likes of Daytona or Charlotte, like we had last week. I mean, Charlotte, the roval that we had last week, produced probably some of the most chaotic racing of the evening. Do you think we're going to have a repeat of that at Phoenix?
Oh yeah, definitely. I think for tracks that the drivers know, you get a lot of chaos. When it's a track that drivers don't know too much, it's going to cause even more, because of a lot of the braking zones, they're not going to be used to knowing where to brake when they're on their own laps. Never mind when they're having to brake later or brake earlier when they're in battles with other cars. And that's like what I said before we got onto the standings. Those who are good in qualifying will benefit here, because the lots of those who will be on pole can run away with it nice and early, get themselves a big gap, and then just kind of figure out the track themselves. Whereas those in the mid pack have just got to try and fight through and guess as well as everybody else's, and of course that could just cause a lot of chaos, especially on those opening laps. So I think once again qualifying very crucial around this old configuration of circuit.
Indeed, yeah. I mean, we've got a couple of minutes until we jump into that one. One more thing I wanted to ask you, Nathan, because I know obviously you do like your iRacing, you do like your driving. On the topic of Mitch Marie, and I know we're talking about him a little bit, but I think it's so interesting, the stick shift and heel and toe in the MX-5. Now, of course, it's the most immersive, probably the most fun way and most engaging way of driving the car. What sort of disadvantage do we think we're sort of looking at that relative to everyone else who'll just be using the sequential?
It's because it's not as simple. I think back before the MX-5's got the little revamp, they used to be the stick shift, and I tried it a few times. It's difficult to get used to. It's a lot easier to kind of not know when to shift down. You're not as, with a sequential, just tap it like that. Stick shift, you're moving it around third, second, fourth. It's just so more difficult to get used to. But also, I've had this issue. I'd imagine these don't when they're quite good at the game, but I accidentally put it into the wrong gear, which doesn't end well when I go from third and I end up going into first or go to second instead of fourth. Not ideal. But I think it's just another addition in. You've then got your clutch, which you've got to control. Difficult to do, especially if you're brand new. So it's going to be interesting to see how Mitchell Murray goes through the whole championship with this. But I'd imagine with him using the shifter now, he's probably used that for quite a while, and it's not something he's just decided to do. So yeah, I'd imagine so far he's doing quite a decent job out there.
Yeah, I'd say so. I don't know how you're managing to go from third to first. I'm a bit worried for your driving examiner when you get to it in a few weeks' time. Nonetheless, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to head into qualifying for race number 2. Adam, Nathan, take it away.
Indeed. Right, we go again, Adam. And once more, qualifying gets underway. Yet again, 10 minutes, 3 laps. What are you expecting here?
In terms of qualifying, I think we are maybe going to have a couple of errors. I'm just having a look at the track map here on my right hand side. It's so technical in the middle sector. From turn number 1 through to turn number 10, it's going to be really, really challenging. You're braking and cornering at the same time, which does not help the tyre sports. However, you're kind of more prone to locking as well. So that will be something the drivers that have to try and avoid. And then from pretty much 10 all the way through to 12, it's just the banking. That's just kind of the simple banking. So it'll be interesting to see who can get the best kind of cornering out of 10, get the best exit, and then kind of stream their way all the way through around towards the start finish straight. So I'd love to be able to see if we could potentially get be able to get a drag race like we did all the way back at Lime Rock, the first round of the first heat. But I have to see, there is our professional left turner who is doing left and rights here to try and warm up the tyres and the brakes, I assume. But on towards the old Phoenix layout, the track that is well known for the NASCAR Championship 4 as of last year. Let's now move to Homestead Miami Speedway, but this is the main priority. It is the road course, which we're about to get onto now with Nathan. You're going to see how tricky this course actually is.
Yes, certainly. Of course, you've got a long run of the actual oval, about 3/4 of it, and then, of course, you head your way into the road course, which will definitely be a tricky section for these cars, as here is Daniel Sola making his way down onto the brakes in towards the opening couple of corners. So make their way through, and, of course, the great thing about this circuit is, with the road course, lots of runoff. You go wide, you've got, even most corners, quite a bit of space to run out wide and, collect yourself back onto track without being, meted with a barrier straight away. So the moment looking so far so good here for Daniel Solon, but of course everybody else will be out there setting their first lap, so it won't be long until we get some lap times pop up on the board, and as quickly as you make your way into the road course, you're back onto the oval.
You are indeed. And now we just see Daniel Solon try and use all the X. He's brushing the wall. So, if you go up to that turn 10 wall, don't be surprised if you, find a lot of paint at the end of tonight's race. But Solon will keep that left-hand side, and then he'll head over the start-finish line, which was used, I think, up until 2019 here at Phoenix Raceway. And also IndyCar are now back here for the 2025 IndyCar Series Championship. That's also a pretty exciting thing to note about. Here is the number 19 then, heading in towards the hairpin here. This, I believe, is Raul Lagas. So we'll have to see how he kind of comes around this next little bit here, because of course he had a really, really tricky race last time at Oulton Park. How will he fare with this track?
We'll have to wait and see what Raul Lagas can do, but of course at the moment it's a 1/10 gap between first and second, and Jack Mace definitely putting down some pace. But also Alex Hughes up to third, only half a second off. A great opening lap here for him in kart number 12, as here is Jack Mace making his way back on towards the oval. Of course down towards turn 11 and turn 12, where he'll then make his way back into turn 1. Of course, he'll now be beginning his final lap, so one more to go for Jack Mace to see if he can try and fight for that pole position.
He will do. Over the line he goes, and will our professional left turner be able to, take the top spots? No, he doesn't, because there goes Malachi Greenwich. Does a 1 minute 6.3, goes within 0.3 of a second of Solon there. So again, Solon really kind of showing off the reflections of Tom Ballantyne that we saw in a Heat 1. It's a shame that Tom Ballantyne isn't here, because, it would have been amazing to see these two battle away on towards the timing line here for what I believe is going to be, you might as well call it the meme car at this rate, because there was a lot of Pepe and SpongeBob, I think, on that car. Now we see the 51 of Barrett Sathish continuing with his 555, Subaru livery, on towards this final corner. He's currently not got a time on the board, but he'll go over the timing beam. Where will that put his number 51? Doesn't look like he's got a time on the board.
No, doesn't look like he's at all. Most drivers have, apart from just one. As Jake Ansell's up in the top 5, he's making his way through towards turn 11 and 12 in car 83. The RaceSpotTV on the front and the side of his car and the rear. We'll see what he could manage to muster up here. Currently, he has only 34 thousandths off, as that's got a couple of cars ahead making a position. I think that was Mitchell Murray up into the top 4, going even higher than he did. Just as Jack May still in third, a 10th back from Malachi Greenidge. He's looking to try and close in, but I think, he's completed all of his laps, so he's done in third. With it being only a 1 minute 6 lap, I think most drivers will be done as Ben Driscoll goes up into P8 and gets past Raul Lagas.
Yeah, good stuff there from Ben Driscoll, but that seems to be the end of qualifying. I don't think Barrett Sathish managed to get a lap time in, so that went pretty quickly. I'm just quite surprised. We only just passed over the 5 minute mark there, Nathan, but overall qualifying, really, really good signs.
Yes, definitely. Only 4 minutes to go. It's because it's such a quick lap. 1 minute 6, you got all your laps done so quickly. Everybody will be getting prepared to go again into the race, of course. Racing will be interesting. Qualifying, it seemed like everybody seemed to get into grips with the track quite quickly, but of course going side by side, it's a whole different story. So we'll see what the drivers can manage to do there. Of course, heading into this one, Daniel Solon, a lot of pressure, because even though Tom Ballantyne isn't here, and I think any position he finishes in at the moment would put him ahead in the standings, you still got that pressure on you of being right behind the back of Ballantyne, and now having that opportunity to go into the lead of the standings, of course depending where others behind him finish, but big opportunity for Daniel Solon here. But then also the likes of Barrett Sathish, if he can make his way up the field, from the back up towards maybe 4th or 5th, that's still an opportunity for him to go ahead of a couple of drivers in the standings that aren't here. As we can see our starting grid heading into this one, Adam.
Daniel Solon will be on pole position. Malachi Greenidge, who had a really good first heat, he'll hopefully come back after his diminishing results at Oulton Park. Mace from Marie, from Hughes, from Ansel. Let's see how Jack, I think it's Mitchell Marie actually with the other 6 shifter, does from P4 on the grid. As I said, Alexander Hughes will be in P5. He'll be alongside Jake Ansel on the 3rd row of the grid. Then we'll have a look from 7 down to 12, and they should be coming up very, very soon. Here they are. Fabian McEwen in P7. Raul Lagas from 8th place on the grid will be ahead of Ben Driscoll and Barrett Sathish, the driver who finished 2nd last time out at Oulton Park. He'll be starting from the back of the grid, 5th row. And Nathan, what are you kind of expecting? Because as I said, turn 1 is a corner where you're braking, you're turning at the same time. May not be better with the tyres, but again, I think there will be some pretty tight rows along here.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think, the likes of Barrett Sathish down in P10, he's shown pace, so he's going to be wanting to get on with it early, get past lots of Driscoll and Lagas and McKeon, who we've also seen with pace as well. So those two will be wanting to push forward quickly, and you've got to get those moves done so quickly in the start of this race. So you'd imagine those two off the bat getting their foot down, trying to make some early moves. But of course, that comes at risk of drivers ahead of you who might be a bit slower, kind of getting in the way, and you've got to navigate your way through. That's going to be tricky for those near the back, but also for those front lots of Solon and Mace. If they can, not battle that much on the first lap or in the first couple of corners, start to pull away from the rest of the others, and then, of course, they can try and put the pace down and just learn the track as they're going in this race. Of course, it being 20 minutes, you're going to have quite a lot of laps. Maybe about 14 or 15, with it being a lot of a shorter track. Lap times in the 106s, you'd imagine you might get the 105s by the time we head into the race. So, yeah, it's going to be a lot longer in terms of lap count, but it's still the 20 minutes. So it's going to be an interesting race, this one is. And, of course, a big move to probably see those standings right at the front change. Of course, Ballantyne's led the first 4 heats. He's not here today, so lots of Solon and Mace and Marie will behind have an opportunity.
Yeah. Let's head to the grid, because I'm sure we're about to go green very, very soon. We've kind of had a little natter. I think it's now time to see what this is about. There is the Phoenix Raceway. I think this is more kind of the modern version of the circuit, but you can kind of see there around the circuit. It's absolutely blissful around here. We just saw the grid as well. There's still so much to kind of look into. You're seeing how kind of narrow this circuit is. It's kind of almost, there's no real kind of line to it. You're just seeing a couple of grey patches here and there. You're just really seeing where the tyre rubber is kind of rubbering. That's kind of your racing line, really. So it'll be pretty tough for the drivers to try and negotiate this circuit.
Yes, definitely. And of course we can see the beautiful track pans here around Phoenix Raceway. A track, if it goes well this race, I might try and drive it myself. I've recently re-downloaded iRacing, so I'm happy to give this track a go if it looks quite interesting. I'd imagine we're not going to see it much in terms of being on the official races in the game, but you never know. Maybe it'll pop up somewhere with it being a legacy track. There might be a legacy event, I don't know. Maybe something will pop up somewhere. But yeah, seems like a decent track. I think the racing is going to be quite interesting because, like I said earlier, a lot of the corners have runoffs, so if you go wide, you're not too worried about hitting grass and gravel and going round. You can just, if you need to be, just force yourself to go wide and then just rejoin later on. Of course, the oval as well. I don't imagine there'll be contact there, but it's an oval, you're going quite fast. All it takes is a slight misjudgment from a driver and you can all go toppling down. I'm sure something's going to happen on that straight, I can guarantee it. Or at least the oval part of the straight anyway.
Yeah, indeed. I think there's going to be a lot to potentially go wrong on this during this race. So we'll have to kind of see what is about to happen. There is the grid. You see there Danielson on the front of the field, Malachi Greenwich. I'd love to see a good result from Malachi Greenwich. I think it would really do him well after a horrible first lap at Oulton Park. He will really want to come back with a vengeance. I think there'll be a lot in the mind of Malachi Greenwich thinking, there is a really good start off. We're just waiting, I think, for Jack Mace to load into the server as well. But it looks like we're about to go green. Somebody is revving their engine like it's almost about to pop. But you're just seeing the grid there on the left-hand side. We count down to the final couple of seconds. Here we go. 5 lights on the gantry. And we go racing here at Phoenix. Somebody's already in the barrier there. I think that's Ben Driscoll. I'm not sure what happened to him. Daniel Solon has managed to get away beautifully. And Jack Mace is going to try potentially something on the inside line. They head their way through turn to 1. They're going through the NASCAR pit road, of course. And Alex Hughes here we're having a look at. He's really trying to feather his way through the first couple of corners. Everyone's going to be on high alert. Everyone's going to be pretty cautious in this opening stage. Onto the rumble strips go Solon and Greenwich. They're going to try and potentially try something up the inside. Go Greenwich. I think he's going to allow an opportunity, an open door here for Jack Mace to try and walk his way into. And Greenwich will not be happy about that. Marie will also be looking to try and maybe pop his noses at some point.
Of course, a great opening start here as Greenwich back up the inside into turn 10, looking to go ahead of Jack Mace. It's still side by side as they make their way onto the oval. Of course, with Mitchell Murray just in behind, looking to make some moves himself here. Of course, this is where I said I don't think there'll be contact, but you never know between these cars. There's a big run down towards turn 1 between the battle for P2, 3 and P4.
Absolutely. Now drag racing their way down towards turn number 1. A few battles going on here. We're looking at
as we carry our way on to Jake Hansel now, looking to go ahead of Fabian McKeon as they head their way through. But McKeon's gone off the road, or at least has gone off and stayed on the road, and luckily has not collected anybody in the process as well. As we head our way through once more, and here is Barra Sathish in P6, looking to try and work his way high up. Starting P10, I think so far, Adam, he'd be quite happy with P6.
Yeah, he wants to go even further here, Nathan, I think. So we'll have to see kind of what happened to him. Maybe got a little bit of holding up. But now we look here back at Jack Mace. That's an absolute lunge there from Mitchell Marie. And he's managed to make it. Leaves a little bit of paint there on the side of Malachi Greenwich's blue MX-5. And is he going to be able to get the tracks? He's got that inside line. It's about the momentum now. It's going to be pretty much flat through this corner, but when you're a little bit on the high side, you may start finding yourself running out a little bit wide, and that's going to be going to Mitchell Marie. A huge move there from the number 16, but Greenwich is going to come back at him down in toward the first corner. That could be a little bit troublesome. He's managed to make it onto the brakes hard as you go, and they've just survived on that part. Baris Shathish now with the fastest lap, a 1 minute 6.2. Positive stuff there from the number 51.
Yeah, definitely great work from those guys in the field, as here is going to be Mitchell Marie again, looking to make a move on Malachi Greenwich, who is still on the back of Jack Mace, who's gone a tad wide and lost a bit of time, but of course still keeping in touch with Daniel Solan, our race leader. And, you know, we expected that, a track that these drivers don't race so often. You expect there to be a little bit more gaps than usual, as I think there's a move further ahead. Baz Sathish ahead of Jay Council, and here is Alex Hughes and Fabian McKeon battling for 8th place, and Jack Mace back up in 2nd. 8 tenths on the rear of Daniel Solan. And then, of course, Mitchell Marie again all over the back of Malachi Greenwich, so I'd imagine there could be a move there for 3rd. And here is Baras Sathish again under pressure, this time from Jake Ansell, as his Summer gone from 10th to 5th in 4 laps. A great start for Barathi, who just seems to have turned it up a notch since the first 3 heats last week.
Yeah, absolutely, really good stuff from Baras Sashish. I think looking at this infield track, it's giving me very much Summit Point vibes. You know, you can reach the other side of the track as well. That's kind of a big part about Summit Point, but you know, you're going into this kind of car park-esque part of the racetrack, and now you're seeing Mitchell Marie, who will want another go here on Malachi Greenwich. Greenwich did just take the fastest lap away from Baras Sathish, and the number 67 is you're going to try and use Jack Mace at the moment as a guide. And also, I want to kind of point out, Daniel Solan has not really romped his way down the field like he did at Oulton Park. He's very much being kind of, you know, fishing rods hooked on by Jack Mace, so he's still being within the slipstream here. You're seeing all 3 competitors within one picture here. This will get pretty spicy. They head their way in towards the first corner, trying to brake really hard now, following up the racing line. Greenwich goes a little bit more toward the right-hand side compared to Mace, so yeah, it does seem like that is just trying to keep himself in tune with what's going on ahead. So plenty of opportunity for the top 4. Obviously, this helicopter camera just heading in towards the tight hairpin section. Nathan, I think this is, you know, for anyone at this moment in time.
Yes, definitely. Lots of tricky corners on this track, but also what we've seen so far is a lot of these corners have actually provided quite a lot of chances to overtake and chances to defend, so it's actually been some really good racing out on track so far, and having that oval as well really helps, you know, obviously bringing the drivers down in that slipstream really brings the gaps down, and of course that's what's allowed Jack Mace to still stand the back of Daniel Solan on pace. Solan probably still has enough to pull away, but the slipstream just brings Mace, Greenwich and Marie all back into the battle. Of course, it's a shame that the likes of Sathish and Jake Hansel are battling so hard, because if they weren't, maybe they would have had a chance to get involved in this battle for the top 4. As we head our way back in towards turn 1, 14 minutes to go in this race, and a little bit wide there from Malachi Greenwich, but with the corner itself being quite wide, I think if you could just get the car in and get the throttle down early, it doesn't matter if you run a tad wide. But here's a battle for first, so Jack Mace all over the back of Daniel Solan.
Yeah, absolutely. Now Mace is going to try and have a look for an opportunity here, because he's about to wake up and smell the coffee, because there is a lead on offer here, a big 25 points here, which could potentially put him in the lead of the Drivers' Championship. Of course, Mace does sit on 68 points, but I think with Solan's gas, it probably will put him 2nd, in fact behind Solan. But if he can maybe just, you know, push him out a little bit and get him under a bit of pressure, you know, get him to tumble down the order, you know, there's a high chance that Jack Mace can take the championship lead here in this one. These guys are passing really hard. They're really romping away from the other group, because look at that, the top end of the track map. You see the other half of the guys are now just going to really try really passing hard. Now you're seeing Mace try that outside line on Daniel Solan, but will he get the exit? It's going to be brave from the number 7, but he's not quite got the move this time around.
No, and he's got to be careful here, because even though he's making moves, look at Malachi Greenwich, he's there on the case, he's not that far back. so he can close up as well and try and make moves ahead of Jack Mace if he just has a bit of a compromising line, trying to go ahead of Daniel Solon. And now a move for Malachi Greenwich into P2 as Mitchell Murray has a slide.
Indeed he has, and that's going to maybe cost him a little bit on the exit as he head their way down and towards turn number 10 here. Hard on the brakes, get the car rotated. It's light and nimble little thing, that little master. So if you're able to make it into the corner, you know, you're good as gold. Also a reminder, these are fixed setups. You cannot change anything on this car. It is as basic as you can get here in iRacing. And again, Solon going very, very defensive. He really can just taste Daniel Malachi Greenwich on towards this part of the course. And it looks like Mace wants to go on that outside line, so he's maybe going to box Greenwich in this time around. Yeah, it just kind of says to Greenwich, you can't go this way, mate, because otherwise you're going to make contact with me, which is not what you want to do. Raul Largas looking to be even better, because it seems like he's put himself up into a really good 7th place. Promising stuff there from the debutants.
Indeed, and something's happened as well for Jake Ansell, because he's down to P9, and of course he was in that battle between himself and Barra Sathich, so something's gone wrong for him, as here is the top 3 once again. Of course, Mitchell Murray just behind in this battle. There's a little bit deep there for Jack Mason. That could allow Mitchell Murray to go for a move as they head their way out of turn 10 and back down towards turn 1 they go. A move for P1 is on the cards, and a move for P3 is also on the cards. And Malachi Greenwich looking to try and topple that top spot.
Malachi Greenwich to the right hand side, or is he going to go left? He's going to really be planted in the middle here. Solon just says nope, you're not going to go on that inside, mate. So Greenwich said, well, I'm going to have to try the outside line. Who's going to be the last of the late breaks? It looks like Solon just locked himself there on that inside line, really pinned himself right onto that inside apex, and just kind of said to Greenwich, no, you're not coming through here. This is some solid defensive work by Daniel Solon, which he didn't have to do at Oulton Park. That was very close to the barrier there for Jack Mays, and he's going to open an opportunity, open the gates for Mitchell Murray to slide on through. But again, it looks like he's just gone on a little bit too wide. Mace has just overcompensated, it seems like. He dropped his way down to 4th, from 2nd to 4th for Mace, and troubles now starts brewing here. How will that affect his mentality here, Nathan? Because he's probably going to be a little bit frustrated, which is not what you want as a driver.
Yeah, definitely. I think frustration, anger is probably the thought in Jack Macy's mind at the moment, knowing that he's just got to try and fight so hard just to get back into 3rd, when a win could have been on the cards potentially a couple of laps ago, as they've both broken away from the 1 second. Of course, it's not DRS, but you still want to be as close as you can to the cars ahead, as Malachi Greenwich is right behind the back. Daniel Solon further ahead, trying to make the move for the lead. But it seems that even though Solon here doesn't have the best pace, it seems, around this circuit, or at least into the first sector, he knows exactly where to put that car to stop Greenwich from making a move, because every time he's got the overspeed as Malachi, but never quite close enough to make a move. Of Jack Mace is still trying to battle back into 3rd.
Contact between the two, so early signs of leading on each other. I think Mitchell Murray is going to have a look down that inside lane once again, but you know, Jack Mace is going to say no. These two are battling so hard, and I think that's now just going to allow Greenwich and Solon to have those opportunities. Outbreak there for Jack Mace. He almost went that tad bit wide, but Murray was very much, he knew exactly what he was doing in that mode to want to kind of force Jack Mace off. Meanwhile, we switch to this lead battle. The number 67 of Malachi Greenwich. He's going to now try the outside line once again. I think he's done that too many times. Soda just knows to park it in the middle, and this time he's forced the blue car to the outside line. But again, he's doing the exact same. I think Greenwich now just needs to change his approach into this one. Maybe just keep himself on that outside lane. Solon will maybe put himself in the middle and then just kind of fake your way to that inside line for one. But it's going to be very, very different here, Nathan, because he does at this point need to change what he's doing. Just, stop being predictable.
I think the issue is Solon knows what to do every time, and that is pin the inside, because even though he's got a really compromising line. Because of the way the corner opens up, you're naturally going out wide anyway, so he doesn't lose that much time by sticking to the inside and braking a little bit, braking a little bit later than Greenwich, who on the outside line, you just can't get ahead. There's not enough grip on the exit. He's not got enough overspeed or skill to just go around the outside and pin it. So he's just stuck there in P2. And Solent has that one covered, but like you said, he's got to try and force some sort of dummy or a mistake somewhere from Daniel Solent. And of course, as Mitchell Murray is still on the back of Jack Mace, looking to make the move himself, but he also can't find a way through into third place. As I imagine this time around, though, Malachi Greenwich a little bit further back as they head into turn 1, and this time around, no move on the cards. But it just seems he gets a good exit here, but there's just no avenue to overtake.
No, you're right, and he's going to have to maybe try something creative as he heads his way through the next left-hander and on towards this hairpin here of turn 7 and on towards 8. They go 8 is pretty much the exit. He's going to try that outside lane, try that outside avenue, as you mentioned. And again, just can't seem to get anything on board now with Malachi Greenwich. He's got less than 7 minutes remaining, so unless he maybe, tries something rash, then I really can't seem to see how we can get, make a way through. And that's all really down to the experience and the defense of Daniel Sudley. It's been pretty formidable and pretty, strong. But do you kind of see a crack in this wall coming, Nathan?
It's possible, but I think it's more down to a solo mistake than a Greenwich masterclass, if anything, as Malachi closes in, goes to the inside, but yet again Solon covers it off late, but still gets there, and no way through for Malachi in the blue car. As wide goes Jack Mace, but the same goes for Mitchell Murray as well. So Murray can't capitalise off that, but a poor exit there for Malachi Greenwich allows Jack Mace to maybe try and charge for P2.
Yep, this is going to be big in this race, because now Daniel Sonnen will be looking at in his rearview mirror and thinking, well, that's exactly what I needed. Jack Mace will now be setting his sight from his rearview mirror on Mitchell Murray to his windscreen on Malachi Greenwich. And now, is that blue car going to be dispatched by the red and black of Jack Mace? Is he potentially, with that oval experience, going to potentially try and use that, the oval, maybe the higher side of the Phoenix Raceway oval to try and get, a launch off the corner? Or is it just not worth it? You're more better just to keep to the inside line here. Mitchell Murray is looking at all of this, sitting back like he's in a cinema, at the popcorn as well. At this moment in time, it is all still line of sun with just over 5 minutes to go.
Indeed. So this race has actually been really interesting so far. I think my favourite of the event. It's been really chaotic in terms of the battle from first down to fourth. You don't really expect, know to expect who will be in what position by the time we get to that checkered flag. It can all change very quickly here up at the front, and of course it's a first race where nobody's actually run away with it. They've all been stuck together all race long, the top four. Of course, they've got a great gap back to Barras Sathish, but I don't think that's also representative of Barras Pace, because he's not got that slipstream to contend with. He loses a lot of time compared to these guys down some of the straights and of course through the oval section. So not surprised to see the gap so far behind just increase lap after lap as we go again back down towards turn 1. And what can Malachi Greenwich do? Because it just seems like there's nothing he can do. Solon knows exactly what Greenwich is going to do, and Greenwich knows exactly what Daniel Solon's going to do. So they just end up checkmating themselves here. As Jack Mace, though, if he starts to put down the pace, could throw both of them into a mistake. That's what he's got to keep an eye on. And of course, a mistake for Solent can help Malachi Greenwich here, and he's going to be then forced to look for a move.
Again, I think Malachi Greenwich just wanted to go for that inside line once again. He was like, right, I've tried the outside too many times. Let's try that inside line. And he's just kind of, been note carded there by Daniel Solom. And now in towards turn number 6, there's nothing doing in towards 7. You can't really make a move down at 7, unless you want to go right off track and just smash into the side of your rival. You can't really make a move there, because the speed you take with that car through 6 just lets you go onto the inside lane here. And this is now where we're starting to see Malachi Greenwich having a go here at the hairpin. This is now going to be pretty crucial, because if he can just stick his car now on the outside lane here through the oval they all head, but it looks like Solon has managed to just about get ahead. But again, he's now going to have to pop out to the right hand side. He can't go to the left because that is completely blocked here. Now Jack Mace is going to push Malachi Greenwich through here, and this could be potentially the lead, but in towards the inside lane here. Mace tried to make it a move for second, but just couldn't do anything about it. Look at Mitchell Marie trying that outside line to get the best exit possible. Off 2, through 3, and on towards 4, and then on towards 5 they go. It's a sweeping section of corners, but they still stay line astern.
Yep, same order still, and it's been like that now for about, I'd say, 6 laps, maybe a little bit longer. 2 minutes and 35 seconds to go. So you're looking at another 3 laps, I'd imagine, here in this one. And Malachi Greenwood still looking to make that move for the lead, but he's going to switch it to the inside in towards turn 10. He's got the move done. Now, can he hold on to it?
Yeah, that's a question here. And it looks like Greenwich is not going to quite have the exit here. Jack Mace is going to have to now try that inside line. They're going to try and make it 3 wide, but it looks like Solon's already aware to the momentum that Jack Mace has got. The hole has opened up. The gate has opened wide. The left turning supremacist Jack Mace has now hit the front here at Phoenix Raceway, what you could potentially call it's contact, and that's going to be Daniel Solon round. And unfortunately, he's going to take what seems to be Malachi Greenwich with him. Unbelievable scenes here in Phoenix.
Well, Jack Mace won't be too disappointed with that, as Mitchell Murray, I think, has gone back to the pit lane. So I think Mitchell Murray will be done there, because it seems he must have damage and he's gone back to the pits. So your top 3, still, somehow, those 3 in it. It's Jack Mace, 7.8 seconds ahead of Malachi Greenwich, with Daniel Solon in behind, and then of course Barra Sathish 4 seconds back. Now I'd imagine these two are going to be quite angry. I reckon they'll be elbows out again now, and I can't wait for it. Bring it on.
Round what? I was going to say round 2, but it's been probably about round 8 this match. This time we've gone further than a boxing match at this rate, and Jack Mace is
Who's going to get the knockout?
Hopefully none of them, because that will require both of them in the safer barrier. Jack Mace will now come over the line to start his last lap. But hopefully we won't see too much of a bust up between Malachi Greenwich and Daniel Solon. They've hopefully said to each other, you know, we've had a few jabs. Let's just keep it at that. Let's not turn this into a full-blown war. And Barra Sathish has turned this result from a P10 to a P4. Brilliant stuff from him.
And I think that the disappointing part is there for Barra. From what we saw in the first race, if he qualified even like P5, he probably would have been in that battle for the lead and would have been a big chance for him to go through. So I think, yes, 10th to 4th, brilliant, but disappointed on the fact of he's missed out a lot of points there. Of course, shooting up the standings from like 9th to 5th, it would have been such a big opportunity to get back on the podium again. But still, P4, a lot of points on the cards. I think could jump ahead of a couple of drivers. That's a spin for Alex Hughes and slightly into the barriers.
And Raul Lagos is going to try and potentially get through, but we now need to switch here to Jack Mace, because he is coming round the final corner and will take victory here at Phoenix. Meanwhile, Malachi Greenwich is going to be feeling the pressure from Daniel Solon. It's going to be a drag race to the line. Greenwich, Solon, and it's going to be Greenwich to take the second place of that one. Solon will probably feel a little bit aggrieved with the result of this one. And Barra Sathish, kudos to the number 51. What a result. What a race. What a race, Nathan.
Great battling. The best race we've had so far, and it's the track I knew the least about. So there we go. Of course, that had to come to fruition as Jake Ansell crosses the line in P6. And then Raul Ragas, I think after the first race, disaster. Race 2, a bit better. He'll cross the line in P7 once he makes his way around the final corner. And then, of course, the final car to cross the line will be Alex Hughes in P8. Mitchell Marie, I'm not sure if he was classified, because he did drop into the pit lane. And then, of course, Ben Driscoll, some issue, and, of course, spun on the line, which I don't think is that possible in these cars. But there we have it. What a race. Really good. But Jack Mace, happy. I think the great thing for Jack Mace there was, Adam, with the position he was in terms of being stuck in 3rd, he just had to make the move, go for it, and just hope it sticks. And of course, behind, carnage.
Well, good to be back, guys. Doesn't look like Adam's moving. To be honest, he's stuck. Look at him. what a shot that is as well. Lovely stuff. And you can see, Nathan, look, he's got 10 fingers. Even better.
I couldn't see 9
anyway,
there.
I know. The viewers have no context as to what we're on about either, which is even better. Yeah, obviously a good second race to get things rolling, Nathan. I mean, obviously now we've lost Adam as he's there with us in spirit. Just thoughts overall. I mean, what do we make from that? Phoenix, like you were saying, the track a lot of us knew the least about, but produced some pretty good racing.
Oh, brilliant. Really good racing. The best race we've seen so far, and one of the best races I've seen in a long time with Mazdas. Really good racing, but of course that's the oval that helps out there because you get so much slipstream together for like 3/4 of the lap. You're there following each other through at such tight margins, and of course big opportunities to be making moves. Here we saw Jack Mace getting moves done early. He sat in second, he dropped to P4. 3 laps later, he's in the lead by 8 seconds. It just changed so quickly, and of course Malachi Greenwich will be very disappointed with what happened at turn 1, but with my stewarding knowledge, I'd say he was a little bit too ambitious there, if I have to say so myself.
Yeah, fortunately no netcode in that particular incident. Of course, through turn number 1, a very difficult combined GE corner this, Adam. I mean, what do you make of it as a corner, especially in these MX-5s, which can be a little bit twitchy if you get it wrong on the brakes?
I think we lost him again.
So, well, we'll wait for Adam to sort himself out. We'll look through. I mean, Nathan, same question to you. I mean, that turn 1 combined G complex. I mean, very, very difficult, very sort of Daytona-esque, but almost faster and wider.
I think that's the issue. With it being such a wide corner, the inside or the outside, you can still make it through with quite a decent speed, and that's what we saw from Solon. I think he realised after the first couple of laps, you can go into the corner on the inside. Of course, keep that car pinned to the outside. You can still go wide and make the corner quite perfectly fine, and also keep that car behind. And every lap it was the same story. Hold the inside line out of turn 10 all the way down towards turn 1 and hold on to it. But of course, the key thing, the catalyst for that move for Jack Mace was he got behind and both of them ahead kind of got a little bit, oh, where do we go? What do we do? Because we can't just sit together. One of us has got to move. They both moved to the right, and Jack Mace went through and got the position. And of course, it was a great move. Calculated then, of course, Malachi Greenwich going up the inside into turn 1, forcing himself back into P2. Didn't quite end too well, did it?
No, let's have a look. They made themselves 3 wide, maybe some bad blood between Jack Mace and Malachi Greenwich. They would, of course, be going to battle, and I think a Roval again opens the door for this type of racing. It was fantastic to see. I mean, 4 cars involved in the lead battle. Malachi Greenwich on the inside of Dan Solon there. That got all 3 of them involved. Mitchell Murray, though, quick hands to take to the high side of the banking there to get himself out of trouble. But, of course, Jack Mace and the biggest beneficiary of all of that. I mean, again, Nathan, off the back of the what we've seen so far, which is typically a pole to flag victory, very refreshing to see such an intense battle.
Yes, definitely. For once, we've got a battle for the lead, something we haven't had in the first 4 races, or at least not after like lap 1 or lap 2. So great to see some other drivers getting involved in that battle for the lead. And of course, as you said with Mitchell Murray, got himself up to the high line, but it didn't end too well because he retired, or at least finished in 9th. So I don't know what happened. He must have got some damage, which looked weird because he didn't seem to make that much contact with Daniel Solon. But of course, for him, that's a big shame because he wasn't involved in it and ends up finishing in 9th and losing a heap of points. Whereas Jack Mace will be very happy because he was cruising in P4 and ended up in P1 and winning it by 8 seconds. So I think for him, big moves up in the championship. But Solon, of course, also looking the fact of that Satish and those behind were 12 seconds back. Otherwise, it could have been a really big change in the order.
Well, just one more race to go this evening, of course, Nathan. Rudskogen Motor Centre, of course, the Danish circuit, brilliant in terms of its challenges. We've spoken already about the combined G corners. That, of course, comes straight into fruition at Rudskogen. Very wide, of course, some good braking zones at the chicane. Like we said, that combined G corner at turn 3 and 4, the S section, up, down, very undulating. A very fast final sector as well. So, again, these MX-5s, which rely heavily on that mechanical grip, no aerodynamic assistance at all really, downforce just non-existent in the MX-5s. You're going to be scrubbing the tyre a lot, you're going to be leaning on the tyre a lot and demanding quite a lot out of them. It's going to be a huge challenge on these drivers.
Definitely, and of course we know that cornering speed is key in these cars, and a lot of that comes with brake rotation, especially into some of the chicanes, and of course you've got the downhill right-hander. brake rotating there becomes quite difficult because it's such a horrible corner going in, very easy to lose the rear. We see that a lot in most of the the different categories of cars, the Masters one as well. You've got to be very, very cautious with the brakes, but we know that to be quick, you've got to be very unstable with them. So it's going to be a key race to watch here, or at least a key qualifying, just to see who can kind of master the corners, because it is a difficult track to drive, no matter what car you're in.
100%. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us for the opening 2 races. Just one more to go for round number 2 of the British University Sim Racing Series. We're going to step aside for just a moment. We'll be back at 10 past the hour. Translate that to wherever you are around the world. Make sure you are back in about 16 minutes' time for the final race of the evening. We'll catch you after the break. One race to go in the final race of the evening, of course, for the British University Sim Racing Series. Round number 2 of 3 in that road to the grand final. My name is Zach Sweeney, Nathan Richards, Adam Reed alongside me in the commentary box to talk you through all of the racing action. And we've had 2 pretty decent races so far, Nathan, haven't we? Oulton Park, Phoenix especially delivering, and now Rudskogen, which in of its own world presents its challenges.
Definitely. Of course, Oulton Park was a little bit like what we've seen all season so far. Couple of battles in the midfield, but a car up front runs away with it and gets the win. Whereas Phoenix, different story. Because of the oval, because of the long straight as well involved, you can't pull away. And of course that brought for some great battling. Of course contact as well between second and third allowed Jack Mace to pull away into victory. But of course looking at the standings here, Zach, I mean that is as close as you can get really.
But I mean, a point between each of the top 3 is insane. And again, Tom Ballantyne dominating round number 1. Think, sort of, put into perspective that maybe this series was going to be a one-man show. Round number 2 has completely quashed that narrative. Daniel Solin, Malachi Greenwich, Jack Mace, 95, 94, 93 points. Mitchell Marie, Bareth Sathish, of course, 86 points apiece. Fabian McEwen, Tom Ballantyne, still P7, considering he's missed the last 2 races. Not bad going at all. Alexander Hughes, Joel Pennell, Jake Ansell, Raul Lagos from Brent Driscoll, the top 12. But Dan Solin, Adam, I mean, in terms of consistency, fair enough, maybe had a bit of contact in Phoenix, but his result at Oulton Park, his consistency through the weekend and through the evening, has definitely put him in a position to be leading the championship.
Absolutely, Daniel Solon has been, really, really good. He had his struggles in the first heat, but of course he took that win and Oulton Park, and he's kind of carried on a little bit of momentum in towards this final round. But of course, for the final race, it's going to be between those 3. And I think there's going to be a little bit of blood to be solved here. Also, Malachi Greenwich on 0 wins up into second. That's incredible consistency. Onto Rudskogen, as you see in the track there, it's such a technical circuit. Especially that chicane you see in the middle there. You've got to try and straighten out that as much as possible as well. You've got a downhill section which is going to be really, really difficult. I'm sure, Nathan, you absolutely love that section. And also you've got a hairpin, which I'm sure a couple of drivers will have a look and try and stick their nose up the inside of. But I've covered this series with, I believe, Formula V's. It's been brilliant in that. I've covered, Toyota GR86s around here, Porsches as well. But I think, Mazdas are going to be quite different. They've all got their kind of similar or different kind of styles of how they race around here. I'm sure this is going to be no different.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, of course, like we say, that combined G corner into what should be, I'd imagine, flat out left-right sweepers is definitely a chicane, but definitely going to be looking to, like Adam said, straighten that one out as much as possible. Minimise the resistance before you set yourself up over the crest and downhill towards what is a very banked hairpin. You can brake very, very late going into it, and definitely opens the door for some moves. And then, of course, just keeping it nice and tidy before a very long right-handed to end off the lap. Nathan, of course, we've had a little bit of beef going on in the old drivers chat for the British University Sim Racing Series. It was a pretty tame opening round. Round number 2, though, seems to be all guns are blazing in the chat. You're a steward. How are you looking at this? What do we think is going to be happening come the protest time for this round?
I think there'll be a couple of penalties today. Compared to what we saw last week, we've actually saw quite a few incidents. Some of them, I think I can already pin a bit of blame on. But of course, as a steward, I want to look at everything in detail before I can say, right, you're at fault, you get in the penalty. But yeah, definitely, I think there'll be lots to look into, especially the Phoenix race as well, because not just up at the front, but there was contact in the mid and then also at the rear. So there's going to be lots, I think, being fired through into the stewards. And like Adam said as well, the first round ended on nobody with penalty points. They'll be a little bit more aggressive. Well, they took that to the next level and started killing each other on track.
Brutal from Nathan Richards. Adam Reed, I mean, very quickly before we jump into qualifying, predictions for round number 3.
Oh, you've really put me on the spot there,
straight
Zach,
away, mate.
But,
no prisoners.
No prisoners. I think we're going to see some good racing. Maybe one of the drivers, I'm going to predict Daniel Solon's maybe going to drive off a little bit into the distance, but he's going to have that fire in his belly to try and make up, from what happened previous race. But I think we're going to be seeing a really, really good scrap for the podium places. This should be an absolute corker.
Yeah, I'd imagine so. Rudskogen, like we've been saying, I've been looking forward to this one. I'm going to be keeping a very keen eye on the racing, as I'm sure all of you guys are at home. Quick reminder before we jump into qualifying, by the way, the entire points championship gets reset at the grand finals on the 16th of April, where they're battling for 3 lots. The top 3 in the championship, BTCC tickets to a round of their choice in 2026. If you want to be a part of that, get yourself signed up, get yourself an MS UK license, jump into the grid and give it a go on iRacing. Well, lads, for the final time today, I'm going to hand it over to you, Nathan. It's time for race number 3 at Rudskogen.
Indeed it is. Our 6th race in total, our 3rd of this evening. And of course, as I said earlier on, Rudskogen Motor Centre. It's a great track for racing to view and for us to commentate over, Adam, but to actually drive it, it's a beast. It is a very tricky circuit up in Scandinavia, and I think, of course, we've got the long run down towards turn 3, which is a killer because the undulation, you go right downhill, you've got no stability on the car as you head onto the brakes into the corner to turn in. It can end in chaos, especially on cold tyres at the start. It's horrible. But then the final corner, I think, is a big challenge because it's such a tight right-hander, which it's not, it's not really much of a hairpin, but you've got to kind of keep a tight line, keep your foot pinned, but very easy to run wide. And on the exit there, you can't be running wide because you get off tracks. So you've got to get the line through there, pitch perfect, to carry enough speed through and to not run off the track. And then also, a couple of chicanes here and there as well in the middle part of the track. It's not easy. It's going to be the biggest challenge, I think, of all of those. And I'm judging that not just off the fact I don't like the track, but I'm hoping that, like me, there's many drivers that have been here for a while, that they all know the difficult tracks, and this is always one of them. I hate it when it comes up on the weekly calendar.
And here we are into Rudskogen, and we're now seeing Barry Sathish, who is at this moment in time just heading through the fabled chicane that Nathan has just mentioned. Well, we are into qualifying and deep into the heart of it as well. We've gone through the first minute already, but we're really starting to see some drivers just at this moment in time out there really working away. You're already seeing some of the issues that the drivers are experiencing around turns 2 and then 3. I think it might be good to get an onboard lap, an entirety of a lap around this circuit, because you can't really kind of explain it entirely well unless you've driven the track a million times, know your ins and outs. It's one of those we have to take an onboard lap around this circuit. So much undulation around here, so much kind of to talk about as well, because you need a lot of experience in whatever machine you're driving around here to kind of get to grasp with this race.
Certainly, as we have Malachi Greenwich now making his way through in towards the final couple of corners, in towards turns 13 and 14 to end off his first lap. Well, he's out lapping, he will then begin his first lap and make his way down towards turn 1. Of course, a bit of an uphill in towards turn 1, not much of an uphill, but there's some elevation there. Then, of course, you go through turn 2, it's a long run down to turn 3, so we'll keep an eye on here as this is Daniel Sola making his way through into the final corner, also getting prepared for his first adventure out on track around Rudskogen Motor Centre. And of course, as always, 10-minute qualifying session, 3 laps that you can complete, of course, your 8 lap excluding that. So, of course, let's see what our drivers can do. 3 whole laps, so I'd imagine they'll be all doing them in a row, unless you make a big mistake and have to go back to the pit lane for something. But here's Daniel Solan, Adam, making his way through turn 3, through turn 2, now down towards turn 3.
Of course, on the exit now for Daniel Soden, he'll get the good exit off the corner, and then he'll head his way down the hill in towards turn number 3, where he's going to hit the brakes just after the 50-meter board, get the car rotating. You see the rear trying to step out. He's opposite lock as well, all the way through this corner. Still opposite lock. It may not be the best way to get around there, but already starting to show how difficult this is in a Mazda. Now carrying a lot of speed through this sequence of corners through the chicane section. Now you have to get back on the brake to get the car rotated through this kind of hairpin section. Now you're going to try and straighten the car up. You're heading back down a hill. See the elevation on your screen in towards another hairpin. Let gravity do the work as you turn your way through, and then you're heading back up the hill, trying to use all of the exit you possibly can there on the left hand side. and then you're trying to straighten up the car with this left-hander. Now you're looking to try and set up the car on towards this final corner. You flick it to the left, brake on towards the right-hander, and then you're going to just try and rotate as best you possibly can. You find the shortest way around, pick up the throttle nice and smoothly, nice and gently, as you now head your way across the rumble strip to the left-hand side over the timing beam, and that is a lap of Rudskogen with Daniel Solon with a 134.966.
Of course, and Bareth Sathish at the moment is up at the top on that provisional pole spot, 7 tenths clear of Daniel Solon with a 134.294. Mitchell Marine third, Jay Cancel fourth, and Raul Lagas currently rounds off your top 5. But many more laps coming through. Jack Mace making his way up to the line. We'll see where he can go, but no lap time registering just yet, so I think he's made a mistake. And here is Jay Cancel making his way back down towards turn 10 of the hairpin. And then, of course, it's back up the hill in towards turn 11 and 12. So we'll see what Jake can do. He's 3 tenths back from Mitchell Marie after the first run, as he's now going to come through to complete his second run. And 5 drivers yet to complete a lap in this session. Not surprised, because it is tricky. You know, as well as the track being tricky, it's very easy to run wide, especially exit of turn 2 on the outside, because your car drifts out naturally. It's easy to go wide there. It's easier to go wide here at turn 14, and also down at the bottom of the hill in turn 3. So it's quite a difficult track to get used to. As Fabian McKeon, haven't seen much of him this evening, up to P3, as we do see a couple more cars cross the line.
You're just seeing there Malachi Greenwich now going to second place there, albeit it's half a second off Barrett Sathish. So Sathish has got just that extra magic around Rudskogen, it seems, but of course these are still the early stages of qualifying. Well, I say that we've hit over halfway distance into this session. You see the gaps are looking pretty wide now. I think just over just 8 tenths per second separating the top 4 of Sathish, Greenwich, Ansel and Solon. So a real lovely mix of drivers in there, because we didn't see much of Jake Ansel in the second round. Of course, he was right in the midfield for Oulton Park, but yeah, already he put himself into the second row of the grid. Jack Mace now 134.017, 2 tenths of a second clear of Barrett Sathish, who we're riding on board with. This has just added another extra level here in this qualifying session here at Rudskogen. And also Mitchell Marie currently down in P8, back at the grid for him at the moment.
Yeah, definitely not looking too good for Mitchell Marie. He's matching times pretty much with Raul Lagas. It's only around 20 thousandths between the two. As here is Jake Ansel making his way through in towards the final corner to complete his final lap in this qualifying session. Only 2 tenths away from Malachi Greenwich, and only 10th ahead of Daniel Solon. So definitely pressure on him to keep that P4 spot if he can't go any higher. Up to the line for Jake Ansel, and I don't think there was any improvement. No, was 4.5 tenths off his previous best. As here is Mitchell Marie. 1 more lap for him here, and he'll make his way through the final corner. Goes quite wide though through there, and doesn't seem to be too in tune with the circuit here at Rudskogen Motor Centre. So we'll have to see if he can go any higher than P8 here. So he makes his way up to the line. And I don't think there was an improvement, and up to P6 for Mitchell Marie. His fastest lap of 135.233. But Jack Mace at the front here looks really comfortable in first, as Daniel Solon goes up to P3.
Indeed, really good stuff. As this qualifying session now starts to curtain up. We still have a couple of drivers still left to go. I thought that was a bit of a slide there from the driver we're currently with at the moment, but you're just seeing
Alex
here.
Hughes.
And it is Alex Hughes, thank you very much, as he heads his way now down in towards this hairpin section. He's having to brake so late, drop the car to first, tyre squealing away, and he's dropped the car, giving a kiss to the Arco barrier, but yeah, that's not going to be ideal, and that will put him down on the 5th row of the grid. So not the most ideal situation to be in when you're Alex Hughes. Of course, he's not had the magic sparkles to go along with his career in the British University Sim Racing Series, but a solid midfield driver nonetheless, and still it's a race where you make up the points.
Certainly. I mean, the gaps are a lot tighter than I thought. It's only just over a second between everybody at the moment, which is great to see. As here is Alex Hughes, and that'll be his final lap. I don't think he got one on the board. No lap on the board for Alex Hughes, so he starts at the back of the field. But Jack Mace, right at the top, looking really good up at the front. Of course, Barasathish, again on the front row. His second time this evening he's been on the front row. Of course, last time out in Phoenix he was down at the back, so I think he'll be rather happy with being back up at the front and to kind of consolidate that really poor qualifying performance last time out.
Yeah, really good stuff. We've had a message from one of the viewers, and they said this circuit is just typical Scandinavia. You just take something really difficult and make it absolutely mental. This viewer is very much looking forward to this, and here is the great Jack Mace will be on pole position ahead of Barasatich. Really excited to see what these two can do off the front of the grid. Daniel Solon and Malachi Greenwich, two drivers who have had a little bit of bad blood during this heat, and they'll be at it on row 2. Jake Ansell will be in P5 ahead of Mitchell Marie, who'll hope to do something from the 6th place on the grid, and that should round out our third row. On to the fourth one, we find Fabian McEwen in P7 with Raul Largas, and then Ben Driscoll and Alexander Hughes both did not get a lap. So whether it was, they made mistakes, or, they weren't able to get lap times or track limits or whatever, it's going to be pretty difficult for those who are at the back.
Definitely, really difficult. And Fabian McKeon as well, of course, like I said earlier, haven't seen much of him this evening, but he has been down in the lower parts of qualifying so far, but has still got himself into some decent results, so we'll have to see what he can do to come work his way forward here as we have the track map here, or the track view, I suppose, of Rudskogen Motor Centre. Difficult track, lots of hills, lots of undulation, lots of elevation. It's going to be interesting. The racing's going to be tight, I think, again, because you've got a couple of decent straights where you can keep with the car ahead. I mean, down to turn 1, you can keep there. Down to turn 3, there's still a chance. I mean, there's even chances for big moves down towards turn 3, just because if you're on the inside, car on the outside might be a little bit wary of making a move as we get ready to get started for our final race of the evening, our 6th heats of the British University Sim Racing Series here at Rudskogen Motor Centre. Jack Mace on pole, Barasathish in second place, as it's going to be lights out as they head their way up to turn 1. And a great start from Jack Mace, but a really poor start from Barasathish, and this already allows Daniel Solon to go alongside and maybe ahead by the time they head into turn 1. And Solon goes into P2. A good start from him, as we see Jake Ansell looking to try and fend off from Mitchell Marie, who's looking to go up into P5 on the start as well. As they head back down towards turn 3 we go, and the battle for first and second and the battle for third and fourth will go down towards that third corner, as we see Solon on the outside line, Greenwich on the inside line of Barasathic as they head their way towards turn 4, turn 3. Anybody making moves? I think Solon's just about kept his will alongside on the exit of 3. He's got the inside in towards 4 and 5, and that's Daniel Solon into the lead.
Yeah, really good stuff. But again, Jack Mace still has opportunity to try and come back. He's now going to go in toward the hairpin section with us having to slow the car right down and then try and pick up the pace once again on the exit of this hairpin. Now heading towards the next one. Does anyone decide to go for any moves? Malachi Greenwich wants to try and get himself up the field here on Barasathish. That was a pretty solid move there by the lighter blue of the two MX-5, but again, Solon going defensive in towards this left-hander, and Malachi Greenwich not able to get through here. Mitchell Marie, who started in 6th place in this race, will be hoping to maybe try and get something on the, something on Malachi Greenwich, but Greenwich is just lagging a little bit behind here, but he's going to have an opportunity here on the darker blue MX-5 here on Sathich. They head their way down the straight now. The toe kicks in.
It certainly does. And Greenwich on the outside of Sathish into turn 1. The outside line still. Can he go in towards P3? It's deep, but he's made it work. A great line through. And Greenwich goes into 3rd place. Takes that podium away, as there's going to be Sathish under pressure here from Mitchell Marie, who after a great qualifying hasn't gotten anywhere in the race. He's dropping down. As we do see once again Jack Mace looking for the move, does go ahead of Daniel Solon. I think must have got a slow down, because he did go really slow in towards turn 3, but if you go wide on the exit of turn 2, a slow down will come your way, and Sathish goes through on Solon, who's going to try and stick it to the outside line, and Solon actually drops behind and also goes behind Mitchell Marie. So that slow down seemed to be carried all the way through turns 3 and 4, and Daniel Solon will not be happy with losing all those spots from P1 down to P5.
Really good stuff there. Barasat looking pretty composed. Also, it got an air of confidence in that number 51 555 car. Does he decide to attack Malachi Greenwich? Because that's going to be something he's really going to have to hope for. Mace is also looking solid in this lead of the race here. But I think that mistake from Daniel Sonnen is really going to open up a massive opportunity for the rest of the pack, because he now has to get that fire back in his belly, be really controlled with the overtakes that he's making. And look at that, of course, he's got the likes of Marie and Sathis and Greenwich to try and get through before he gets to have a go at the race lead once again.
Certainly, as we head our way back up towards turn number 1, and Daniel Solon closing in on the back of Mitchell Murray, who is still looking to try and hunt and go ahead of Barron Southish, who of course got that move done into third place again to hold off, as Daniel Solon was the car that got the slowdown down towards 3. So Southish, from being dropping down to P5, nearly under pressure from 6th, is back up to 3rd, as of course Jack Mace is in the lead by 7/10 of a second to Malachi Greenwich as they head their way on the brakes, and Solon looks really uncomfortable heading down into the braking section there at turn 3. Seems to lose a little bit of time on the back of Mitchell Murray. And then of course looking down at the back of the field, Jake Hansel looking to go ahead of Fabian McKean and gets the move done, and Alex Hughes fending off from Raul Lagas.
Cancel has been a real highlight, I think, throughout this championship. But side by side there, Mitch Marie looking to try and appear on the inside there of Barrett Sattich, and that's kind of the first etch in the domino effect here. But down the inside comes Daniel Solon, and he said absolutely not. All contact off the hairpin section here, and now Greenwich is going to feel the pressure because he got a horrible exit off the corner. I wonder if he was just sideways all the way through the hairpin. And look how much time he has bridged to Jack Mace. There's opportunities of plenty for 2nd, 3rd, 4th and 5th. But Mace is going to go off into the distance here, and Solo will be looking at the back of Greenwich thinking, remember what happened last time, buddy? We're not going to repeat that, and I'm just going to go and make a simple move on you. I think there will be a little bit more aggression from Solon in this, and that going to show here with a fast lap of the race of 1:34.066, a second faster than Greenwich, just ahead of him. And why for Sathish? Not the best kind of route to go down for one of our top drivers in qualifying.
No, certainly not. And of course mistakes as well for Malachi Granger has brought Daniel Solon back on his rear. As Barra Sathish up the inside into turn 3. That's a risky place to go for a move, and I think had to back out at the last minute there. Did Barra Sathish. It's never a place to go for a move, and yeah, we all know why. It's very easy to end your race down at turn 3. As they all feed their way through up towards 5, 6, 7 and 8, and then of course down towards turn 10 at the hairpin. As Southish back up the inside, they make their way through a spin further behind as well. I think that's going to be Jake Ansell, loses the car, drops down to P9. And Mitchell Murray still ahead of Barra Sathish as they head their way on the brakes, and Daniel Solon goes up the inside and makes a move ahead of Malachi Greenwich, who's going to try and get a better exit. Does have a better exit, but I'm not sure if it'll conclude into anything for him to go back into P2. So they head through turn 12 and then in towards 13 and 14. Up the inside, no, backs out, or at least stopped looking for the move, did Greenwich. So if he's going to have to make a move, it's going to have to be back down towards turn 1 or the risky turn number 3.
Oh, I might have put a commentator's curse there on Jake Cancel. I said that he was a real highlight of the new driver that coming in, and immediately spins a lap later. I'm so sorry, Jake Cancel, but hopefully he'll be back for Heat 3 and be back for better than ever. But in towards the first couple of corners here of Rudskogen, it's very, very similar to Ottersleben, a circuit that we are going to for the grand finals. You got that first corner, which is reprofiled to have a sweep in towards 1. You have to get on the brakes and a massive rotation in towards 2. Have a look at it on a map. It's so similar to turns 1 and 2. Wide moment there for Solon, and he's going to open a gateway for Malachi Greenwich to potentially try and stick a nose in here, but he's going to pick up the momentum here. I think Greenwich will look to try and potentially find a way through, but it's not going to be this time around.
Now is once again Sathish there, closing in on the back of Mitchell Murray, but no way through down at turn number 8 and turn number 9. So they head back into the hairpin and looking further behind as well. Of course, Jake Hansel after the spin is looking to make a move ahead of Raul Lagas as that's up the inside for Barasatic again, trying to make the move back ahead of Michel Marie. And I think Marie's just about kept it ahead unless Bareth goes to the inside line into 12. No, never a place to make a move. He stays behind for that one. But as I was saying before this happened, Jake Hansel on the back of Raul Lagas looking to try and go up into P8, but they're both on the back of Alex Hughes. So we'll keep an eye on that, but a bit of a mistake there through the final corner for Michel Marie has cost him some slight time and allows Barasatic again to close up and maybe look for that move for P4 as they head their way back up to turn 1 as we're around halfway through in terms of laps. Lap 6 out of expected 12.7, so that's 13 as Jake Hansel now looking to apply some pressure and make a move.
He's made a move on 1. Could have made a move on 2, but that would have ended in absolute tears, and that's the last thing we want to do for Jake Hansel. He's trying to get past Alex Hughes now, the next target on his hit list. Fabian McEwen is a little bit in the no man's land at the minute. He runs in 6th at the minute, 3.3 seconds behind this little battle of Michel Marie and Barasatic. So, he's going to be really finding it really difficult. He's 4 seconds in front of Alex Hughes, so he's kind of, doing mid lap time at the minute. He did seemed like a 35.2 last time around. That's a 9/10 per second slower than Sathish. That's a second faster than Alex Hughes as well. So you're really finding the middle zone there with Fabian McEwen. So the Irishman is going to have to try and just push on forward and get something done. Otherwise, he's going to remain in that zone for the rest of the race here. But Daniel Solon now starting to find a little bit of pace with 0.3 per second faster than Jack Mace last time around. It looks like he's managed to catch back up to the rear of the number 7 car with the fastest lap of the race with 1 minute 34.066. That's going to unleash a little bit of confidence into the orange and blue car. We'll go over the timing line, and it's an even faster lap here, 133.861. I sense a move here, Nathan.
Yes, definitely. It's on the cards between Jack Mace and Daniel Solon. As Mace goes wide, he's got to be careful not to get a slowdown. As into turn 1 we go. Ansel making contact with Alex Hughes, who heads off into the barriers, and that's contact between those two. And Jack Mace keeping ahead of Daniel Solon. I was wondering if a slowdown come through, but he's managed to avoid that one through there. And of course, Alex Hughes off into the barriers, and I'd imagine back to the pit lane. Big shame for him here in this race, and he'll probably finish down in last. As also, once again, Barasatic still on the back of Michel Marie. Solon there going for the inside line through the corner. Has got a great entry, but a really poor exit, and has lost time in all of that here on the back of Jack Mace as they head back down towards turn 10. A good run here. Is there an inside move for Daniel Solon? He's gone for it before. He goes for it again. Got a good line through. But of course he's got to get the better exit because Jack Mace is back on the outside as they head in towards turn 11. But he's a little bit too far back, and move made for Daniel Solon. Now they head down towards the final corner to begin another lap of racing. Is there a fight back here for Jack Mace?
And that's a question on everybody's lips here at the moment because he's still within reaching distance here. Barasatic wants to try and get another run here on the University of Greater Manchester livery user Michel Marie. But we look back to the main battle here. Does Jack Mace go to the right hand side? Well, he is forced to. Solon will say absolutely not. No, you don't. He'll fight it around the outside. That outside will turn into the inside line. There's almost contact between the two. He'll keep his nose in, and on the exit here, he'll go a little bit wide with Daniel Solon, but he will try and get the best run out of the corner. Now, with Mace on the inside line, you're just seeing that he's still there, but just that quarter panel. He's now opened himself up to another opportunity. Jack Mace now back up into the lead of this one. Fantastic between these two drivers. They're at it, hammer and tongs. They're just trying to get at each other's back ends, and it's been brilliant to watch.
It certainly has, and it's not over yet, that's safe to say, with around 8 minutes to go. Mason Solon battling for the lead and potentially the lead of the championship with the gap that, with the way it is at the moment. As onto the brakes goes Solon, going to the outside. He's going to have to try and hook it all the way around, but he can't. And Mace back into the lead and holds it on ahead of Daniel Solon. And of course, the more they battle, the more that Malachi Greenwich can get involved and maybe take a challenge as well. There's a really good exit there for Solon. Could go up the inside here into turn 13. He does go up the inside into turn 13. Into 14 they go. And Greenwich is really closing in because he knows he can get involved soon. And of course, no move made there for Solon. Went for the inside line, but couldn't quite get it done. But he has got a good run down to turn 1 to yet again pull it alongside. And I think might even be ahead before they head onto the brakes. He had a really good run out the final corner. And now has a move.
Mace just didn't defend that, whatsoever. He was very, very reluctant to put that car on the racing line, which is where he was trying to, smoothen out onto that outside to open the turn 1 up. But, he may have, just kind of forgotten that Daniel Solon was there. It's kind of a basic in defending to keep, if you've got a car on the left, we give it the tighter line, and Jack Mays kind of just opened the gap up entirely. So Daniel Solon was given all the room and more to play with to try and get through. It's like having being a rugby team, and not having your fullback. They're completely useless. There's a whole field ahead of you, and Mace will just have to try once again. But he's not got long left. 6 minutes remaining.
Indeed, it's going to start getting close here. With 1 minute and 33 per lap, you're looking at maybe 4 or 5 laps here left in this one. Between these three, and of course, Greenwich is right on the back of Jack Mason, a little bit like what we saw in Phoenix. Top two start to get close, start to make mistakes. And of course, that's when the car in third can, try and charge through and make a move as they head their way through out of turn 14 to begin lap 10 or 12, or 13, I presume it'll end up being, as looking further behind though, Sathish is right on the back of Mitchell Marie. Still a battle to be solved there for P4, and I don't think there'll be any change for the lead up to turn 1. So let's keep an eye on Barras Sathish behind. Can he make a move and go ahead of Mitchell Marie to turn 1? He's on the outside line of Marie. Make their way through, and Mitchell Marie keeps that car ahead for now.
Mitchell Marie actually had an error coming out to one of the last couple of corners. He had a bit of a gap to bridge here, and I'm going to move away from that because Jack Mace is now going to be on the attack here of Daniel Solon. He's going to try that outside line. He's going to try and cut back to the inside line. Daniel Solon says absolutely no you don't, but he will be a gentleman driver and leave a little bit of car's width for Mace to work with, but it's very limited space that is just slowly bleeding away. And I think Daniel Solon just going to keep his nose in front of this one. Malachi Greenwich will love to get in this battle, but it's going to come at a little bit of an expense of his tyres as well. I think everyone should be fueled to the end as well. I hope none of them have fueled too short. But that's the top three you're looking at. Solon, Mace, Greenwich, the battle for the lead, 4.5 minutes remaining.
Indeed, not long left to go here in this race, and still it goes on between the top two. And of course we saw this battling in Phoenix here. Instead it was Solon and Greenwich for most of it. Jack Mace got involved, went through and took the lead as Savage into the back of Mitchell Marie. I thought he was going round, but he's caught it somehow, and just so close to the back of Marie into the final corner. And I just think misjudged the speed that the car ahead was taking through there, and of course has lost a heap of time due to that. As into turn 1 we go. Only a couple of laps remain here, and Jack Mace looking to go back into the lead of the race here ahead of Daniel Solon. As they head out of turn 2, of course, don't run too wide out of there, and then prepare yourself for the launch down to turn 3. Is there a move on the cards here for Jack Mace? I don't think he'd be silly enough to make it unless he can get himself alongside. He's going to have to go to the outside line, is Jack Mace. But I think that was more of a scare Solon to the inside, and hope he makes a mistake on the way in.
It was an interesting move there from Jack Mace. Of course, he's still trying to get his car in the rearview mirror here of Daniel Solon, just trying to off-put Daniel Solon. But I think, the more that Solon leads, the more confidence he is gaining every single time he gets a lap in this Mazda MX-5. Of course, I'd love to see Tom Greenwich back for Heat 3 because it'll be such an interesting battle between these two fierce rivals. It'll be Solon from Mace from Greenwich. I think it looks like Greenwich has made a mistake. He spun it, I think, on his own down at the hairpin, and that's going to drop him all the way down to 5th. Disaster for the number 67. And Sathish is now going to be on potential for a podium, but he's got to try and negotiate Mitchell Murray, who he's been staring at for the majority of this race.
Indeed, a big shame there for Malachi Greenwich, and now that makes the battle between Mitchell Murray and Barasathic a little bit more stake heavy as they're battling for third now in this one. As Mace brings that gap down again. Is he going to go for a lunge? No. Stays behind the back of Daniel Sullivan for now. I'd imagine there'll be 2 more laps after this one here around Rudskogen Motor Centre, so not long left to make moves for the lead. So they head their way back down towards turn 3, and of course we saw last time how Jack Mace went to the outside of Daniel Solon down towards this braking zone, but this time around he's a little bit too far back to even think about making a move. He's a lot later on the brakes, and when you go a lot later on the brakes down towards there compared to the car ahead, that's frightening because you never know what the other cars are going to do.
No, I think myself, I think you can maybe back me up on this one, Nathan, but it's a little bit scary watching kind of the opposite lock happening through 3 and 4 of that downhill. You really to think, oh my goodness me, they're going to lose it. But they're lucky that they're so skilled in, just trying to, hang on to the car. But it seems like sometimes it's just by, by a whisker of a mouse.
Indeed, as here we have Sathish and Mitchell Murray battling again for third place as they head their way through to the final corner, or final corners I should say, and Sathish there, damage on the front of that Mazda MX-5, so that's not going to help him up until the end. As here is Malachi Greenwich making his way through into the final corner, but back with the 2 leaders as they head their way back down to turn 1. 1 more lap to go, and Jack Mace looking to close down on the back of Daniel Solon.
Indeed, onto the final lap of the race then for Daniel Solon. He's going to have to go pretty defensive here from Jack Mace. He's going to the outside line to open up the corner, but Mace is already there. He'll grab the inside line, but now will give Mace the opportunity to get the run all the way down towards turn number 3. He'll just follow in the wheel tracks of the orange and blue car, just stick it to the inside line, Mace will try and go around the outside. It's the only direction that he can go. He can't go back to the inside line because there is a big orange MX-5 there just sitting on the apex, and that's exactly what Daniel Solon had done. It's fantastic defense from the number 78, and he looks to be on for just like the Aston Villa score, 2 goals, 2 victories for Daniel Solon. For reference, Nathan Richards here alongside me is a Birmingham City fan.
Yes. Oh, contact for third between Murray and Sathish as they make their way through. That's what I wish happened to Aston Villa there, what Sathish did. Bullies his way through, and Sathish now up into third place with a couple of corners to go. And up at the front, Daniel Solon seems to have that result, I think, locked in for P1 here. So, of course, they make their way through on this final lap. What a race for Solon. What a race for Jack Mace as well. They've both been there, battling it out for P1 and P2. There's now Daniel Solon for the final time to make his second win of the evening come to fruition. Out of the final corner, no fight back from Jack Mace. It's Daniel Solon that takes the win here around Rudskogen Motor Centre. Jack Mace taking the P2, and Barasathic takes the podium. In all of that, he ends up third. I mean, we were saying at the start, he's not quite got the pace. He's dropping down to P5, P6. He's finishing on the podium ahead of Mitchell Murray, Malachi Greenwich in P5, and then it'll be Fabian McKeon reigning off the top 6 here with a couple more cars left to cross the line.
Yeah, really, really good racing. I've been mighty impressed there. Jay Cancel coming home to finish 7th, but I'm sure there'll be a penalty, or a couple of penalty points applied for him for that incident with Alex Hughes, and then we'll see Raul Lagos, who will come home in P8. Alex Hughes never made it to the end of the race, but yeah, a fantastic race that Rudskogen produced for us. And Zach Sweeney's back in the box. What do you make of that?
A good race to round off the evening, I think. Overall, across all 3 of our circuits, of course, Oulton Park, Phoenix, and now Rudskogen, we were treated to a lot more action this week, which I think we can all be very grateful for, very happy about. I mean, it wasn't just the Ballantine show up in front. We had that mixture. We had, some other guys fighting right at the sharp end of the field. And Nathan, I think that's exactly what we want to see, right? These students really taking it to each other, giving each other a bit of a battle, and setting the stage for what should be a fantastic grand final in a few weeks' time.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, we saw the same story all evening. It's Solon, Mace, Greenwich, Sathish and Murray all battling for, whether it's first and second, third and fourth, holding on in P5. They've all been together this evening, battling it out for big positions, especially in this race here in Rudskogen, and also in Phoenix Raceway earlier on, as of course a little bit of contact on a couple of occasions between Marie and Sathish. So of course those two getting together on, I think, 3 occasions. Those two there, and then of course on the final lap we saw Sathish barge his way past Mitchell Marie and of course claim the podium. And then of course a big shame for Malachi Greenwich, was looking to try and finish off on the podium but had a spin and dropped down to P5 in the end.
Yeah, not ideal in the slightest. Of course, further contact for Alex Hughes, whose front bumper disappeared, then reappeared out of nowhere. Adam, of course, as the highlights are rolling through, I mean, a couple of star drivers, as sort of Nathan mentioned, you know, Dan Solon, Jack Mace, we can see them, the two battling it out here. But also Malachi Greenwich, Mitchell Marie. Who for you has been maybe the standout driver that, you know, has shone and impressed you this evening?
I think the easy kind of way to go is Daniel Solomon, but I've been kind of nurtured to say, you know, don't take the winner all the time. I'm going to say Baron Sathish. He's produced some really, really good drives all throughout this. Well, I mentioned him and then he goes into that, but on the highlight roll, so that was kind of really bad timing from me. But yeah, he's been really, really good so far. You know, he's been really, really competitive, and he's been absolutely amazing, I think, throughout the last couple of rounds, grabbing some great podiums. That was not another highlight. This is just really poor timing from me. But you know, he's grabbed podiums, he's grabbed great results, and he's already put himself right up in the fight. And yes, whilst he's lacking pace, you know, there's also a lot of time to get better. And also with, you know, the 3-week break between Heat 3 and the Grand Finals, you know, what pace will he come to that on-site kind of Grand Finals, you know, with pace? What can he do?
Yeah, 100%. Of course, the drivers won't be taking to the arena themselves. They'll be doing it remotely. We'll, of course, be there and get to enjoy the facilities to bring you what's hopefully going to be quite an amazing broadcast. Here's how the standings rack up after the second round of heats and 6 races in. 121 points for Dan Solon. 2 wins, 4 top 5s from the 6 races. Not a bad record by any means. Jack Mace just 6 points behind Malachi Greenwich as well, representing the University of East Anglia up the Norwich. Only 5 points behind that, of course, taking up P3. Bath Sathish from Mitchell Marie, the top 5. Fabian McEwen, Alexander Hughes, Tom Ballantyne still inside the top 10. And considering he was absent this evening, losing out on a potential 75 points from Joel Pinnell, Jake Hansel, Raul Lagas, and Ben Driscoll, the 12th and final driver to showcase, of course, on the standings. 121 points, though, going the way of Solon. Nathan, the top 3 come the end of the Grand Finals will get themselves the BTCC tickets to the round of their choice. Do you think Solon, Mason, Greenwich are going to be the top 3 when we round off the season?
No, and I'm not saying that because they don't deserve it. I think that's because you've got at least 6 cars there. I mean, the top 5 can fight for it. Tom Ballantyne as well can be there. You've got at least 6 drivers that can go for it. You've got another possible 2 that can go for it as well, I think, further down the grid. So it's going to be a right battle. And I think, of course, with prices being on the line heading into that final race, you've got a lot less races to do to get your big points up. Pressure's going to be a big factor. And some of those that might be at the top now could struggle from some pressure for sure.
Indeed so. Well, let's take a look as to what we're going to be doing in a week's time. We'll be taking a trip back to Oulton Park, but with a slightly different layout. The Foster circuit without the Hislop chicane will be taken to Oulton Park, which, as you can see, figure of 8 in what is now, I believe, a housing estate in Australia. And the Circuito de Navarra, a brilliant circuit. The opening couple of corners, again, combined G, very difficult on the brakes. A very long left-hander into a tightening, sort of almost hairpin complex right at the top of the hill. Plenty of straights, plenty of action. A very, what looks to me, Adam, is a very sharp circuit. I don't know if you've driven it. I have a couple of times. Very fast, very flowing, very good. But like I was saying, very pointy, very sharp. A lot of very sudden and very tight corners around the undulating circuit.
It's going to be a very difficult circuit, you know, Navarra. You know, you've got that kind of hairpin up at the top end. You know, you've got, you know, as you say, it's very, very pointy. So our drivers will be in for a very, very difficult time. I think that's going to be the circuit that kind of separates the men from the boys in this one. It's, you know, the full layout compared to, you know, Oulton Park. So I think, again, Navarra will be pretty difficult. And also with Oulton Park, I'm really intrigued to see how that goes. You know, that circuit kind of holds a little bit, you know, a good memory for me. Commentating over, a little, racing driver known. I don't know if you know his name. Louis Foster. But it was. It's a really, really good circuit for racing.
Does IndyCar or something, I've heard, and also is not a fan of Adam Reed, from what I've also heard in the YouTube comment section. He's not the only one. No, I'm joking. When it comes to next week, Nathan, when we're looking forward to the final round of heats, right, and then of course the look beyond that to of course the grand finals and where we get to of course crown our champion of the British University Sim Racing Series. What is prep going to look like, right? I mean, for round one, it was a bit of an unknown. Maybe people coming in being a little bit, not complacent, but, looking at this as a way to blow off some steam, have a bit of fun. And maybe for some people, it's becoming a bit more serious. Do you think that we're going to see the prep ramp up a little bit more and therefore see even better drivers when we take to Oulton Park for the second time next week?
Definitely. I think the main part with it being a grand final is there's going to be a lot more people watching. There's a lot of pressure on the drivers. Even though they're not there with the people watching them, looking at them, they'll know there's eyes watching. So you've got a lot of pressure on you there. Of course, you're battling for prizes, of course, the BTCC tickets. You want to be winning those. And if you're like P4 on the final lap, you've got to be making heavy sense. You've got to risk going for a move. And I think the prep that the drivers have probably started doing now is knowing how others race, knowing how aggressive drivers are, how defensive they'll be, because that's something they've got to take into consideration heading into the grand finals, because they kind of know how to kind of process catching up to a driver and looking to make a move, or trying to defend from them if they're catching up to them. It's going to be a big change, I think, of the way they'll be racing, because, like I said, pressure. They've got to push harder, and I think they'll do a lot more practice, so the lap times will be quicker, and I'd imagine the lap times will also be quite close.
And I hope we have the return of Tom Ballantyne as well back in a week's time to maybe show these guys what's what. Maybe he's going to come back in and do the sweep, or maybe we're going to have a revised grid of talent and really going to take the fight to him. Of course, all questions that will be answered in a week's time. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your company over the last couple of hours. My name has been Zach Sweeney. I've been joined by Nathan Richards and Adam Reed up here in the broadcast booth. Make sure you join us in a week's time for the final of our 3 heats before that road to the grand finals in the British University Sim Racing Series. We'll leave you with some highlights and see you in a week's time. It's goodbye for now.